Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Glad to be back with you on this first day of spring, and we have a lot to get to here on the Action News 5 digital desk. We got the quad box up, so you know it's a busy day here. We're going to be talking about a number of different things, but I want to get to what we're going to be focusing on with the NBA season, of course, in full flux and March Madness underway. We wanted to highlight the importance of athletic trainers. They're certainly so vital to so many teams out there. And so we're going to be talking to one of them live here on the Action News 5 digital desk. Also, if you're going to want to toss a certain baby formula out there, Gerber is announcing a recall because it could be contaminated with bacteria. We'll have everything you need to know on that. And then, of course, as people anticipate the return of Ja Morant to the Memphis Grizzlies team, he's now opening up about the healing journey that he has been on. And so we're going to be talking about that and some of the therapy involved and ways to just keep you mentally straight and mentally strong, too. That's all coming up in this hour of Action News 5. But again, I want to go to this beautiful shot here from the Action News 5 High 5 camera in Midtown Memphis. Gorgeous out there. Look at all the sunshine here. The problem is it's 27 degrees. It's so cold, but it looks great, doesn't it? First day of spring. When are the warmer temperatures going to get here? Meteorologist Brittany Bryant explains.
Good morning. A cold start to the day, and we keep it pretty chilly all day today. 47 degrees by lunchtime. We're at 53 degrees at 3. Ride home from work at 5:52, and then upper 40s at 7. Also, something to note about today, not only is it cooler than normal, but also clouds roll in here as we get a little later in the afternoon. So clouds will gradually increase. We'll still end up around 53 today, a low temperature of 38 in Memphis tonight. So there will still be potential for frost, especially for areas in West Tennessee and eastern Arkansas. As I mentioned, clouds build in. So by 3-4 o'clock, it's cloudy across the area. We keep the clouds in place tonight, tomorrow morning, though, still dry as you wake up. This is 9 a.m. on Tuesday. Upper 30s and lower 40s across the area, but rain starts to move in through the afternoon and into the evening. So by 2-3 o'clock, you'll start to see a few showers, even through 7 o'clock at night Tuesday. West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, seeing some spotty rain, mostly light showers in Shelby County and into eastern Arkansas. But notice up towards Dyersburg, there could be some heavy rain. There's a low pressure system parked to our north, which is why we'll have that chance for rain on Tuesday. But rain chances still at only about 20 to 30% Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Look at Friday, 60% chance of rain. That will be as a cold front is moving through the mid-south. So some pockets of heavy rain where you see this yellow color here right around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Friday is when it'll be pouring. You'll also have some thunderstorms that could have some gusty winds with this system. And that would be the main threat with any thunderstorms that develop. And then by 11 o'clock at night, most of that rain comes to an end, but at least early evening, 6-7 o'clock at night on Friday, you'll probably still have some lingering rain. So for tomorrow, maybe a 1/10 to a 1/4 inch, could be up to 1/2 inch tomorrow and Wednesday in Blytheville and Dyersburg. But then on Fridays when we'll get most of that rain. So it'll be over that 1-inch mark in Memphis, could get up to 2 inches through the end of the week in Wynne, 3 inches possibly in Dyersburg. Pretty good rainmaker for us here, especially on Friday. We increase temperatures over the next few days. 53 today, 57 tomorrow, 70 on Wednesday, 75 degrees on Thursday, and still hanging out near 70 on Friday.
So did you know that it is Brain Awareness Week? And since we live in the stroke belt, we felt like it was so important to make sure that you knew the signs, the symptoms, and what to do if you think someone you love is experiencing stroke symptoms and what you need to do. So joining us now to talk more about this is Phyllis Wright, stroke coordinator with Methodist of Honor Healthcare. Phyllis, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to have you on here because I think this is good information to get out to people, especially since it's Brain Awareness Week. How fitting. So I guess let's start out by talking about what happens to the brain when you have a stroke.
Well, stroke is sometimes called a brain attack. This happens when something blocks the blood supply to that part of the brain. This can be a form of a clot or a blood vessel in the brain that has burst. Then that area that's become damaged from the lack of blood flow also controls some body functions, and those body functions that the brain controls in that area will be affected as well.
You know, as I was mentioning before I came to you, we are in the stroke belt. In Shelby County, it's one of the top causes of death. What is it about this area that puts us into that category?
Well, one of the things, we have a diet that's high in fats offered to us here in this county. We have high cholesterol levels, sedentary lifestyle, which influences the blood flow not to be as good as it should be. We have high blood pressures that aren't maintained in the normal ranges. Diabetes is a factor. All of these are factors that can be modified to reduce a person's risk for stroke. We also have some lack of education how to reduce those factors.
I think education is always a big thing when it comes to health, is people just having the information they need to make sure they're making the right decisions for themselves. And so let's just talk about some of the proactive things that people can do. Say maybe someone has high blood pressure, or some of the things that you mentioned. What are some proactive things that people can do to lower their risk of having a stroke?
Well, of course, they can change their diet, but you know, if you don't want to eat healthy all the time, you can have special days that you can eat out and not eat as healthy as you do. Going to the gym, and if you can't go to the gym, you can do walks around the neighborhood, walking in your home, exercises from the sofa or your chair. They could do that. And then when you do have high blood pressure, be sure to take your medication as prescribed to keep your blood pressure within the normal limits. Also with diabetes, keeping your blood sugar within normal limits is a very important thing to do. That can be controlled by diet and medication from your physician.
And so let's get into the signs and symptoms, because, you know, time matters if someone is having a stroke.
Yes.
And I know that it's different with men and women. So kind of let's go through and talk about some of those.
Well, they're about the same for men and women, these signs and symptoms of your strokes. Balance is one of them. You're unsteady when walking, or dizziness that makes you feel unsteady. Blurred vision, it could be in 1 eye or both. A facial droop or numbness, or both at the same time. Weakness in one or your leg or your arm, or both. Speech, which is slurred, garbled, unable to speak. Words may be in the wrong context in the sentence. Those are all some of the signs that you need to get help immediately.
You know, and as we were talking about, time matters. So if someone thinks that they're having a stroke, what do they do? Do they need to call 911 right away? Because I think a lot of times people are like, well, maybe this will pass. What do people need to do?
They need to call 911, because the faster they get medical treatment, the better their chances are increased to have a better outcome, because there are treatments that can be given, but they're time-sensitive treatments. So yes, 911, do not drive yourself. You know, call them, get them to your home or wherever you are. If you're with a family member or friend and they're having these symptoms, definitely call 911 to get ambulance there to get them to the closest emergency room.
Don't waste any time, for sure. Let's talk about it, though. If someone has a stroke, what are the treatment options that are out there?
Well, one of the treatments available is a thrombolytic medication. We call it a clot buster. The sooner that medicine is given, the better your chances for lesser of the disabilities that could come along with the stroke. There's also a treatment where trained physicians can go in and remove a clot. Not everybody are candidates for either one of these. Sometimes they are, and sometimes there's factors that make them not be candidates. So if they're not a candidate for them, what we do then is provide them with medication and education to prevent another stroke from happening.
And you were talking about that medication. I just have a quick question for myself. Okay. Is that something, you know, you're saying call 911, get somebody out there, take you to the hospital. Is that something that can be administered on the way to the hospital, or is it something that typically is administered within the hospital?
It's administered in the hospital, but it's important that you get here as fast as possible to the hospital, because those minutes, like you said, time is of the essence, is very important. So getting there with the medical emergency, they can start an IV line and have everything going so that that medicine can be given to you quicker.
Absolutely. Well, Phyllis, anything else you want to make sure that we hit home about, takeaways that you want to make sure people remember before we let you go?
Okay. Yes, I would love to emphasize again, like you said, time is of the essence. It's very important. So if any of those symptoms, you don't have to be more than one. It could be one symptom. Please get the person to the emergency room right away. Timely treatment is very important for the best outcome.
Well, Phyllis Wright, stroke coordinator with Methodist of Bonner Healthcare, I really appreciate your time and helping to get this information out to the public, because like you said, education, it's what it's all about.
Yes. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, it is the first day of spring here on a March 20th. We are excited to be talking about spring because that is the perfect time for so many homeowners out there to improve their house, renovations, do-it-yourself home improvement projects. We want to talk to an expert about DIY projects. So we have brought into the digital desk Chip Wade. He's a favorite TV home improvement expert. Perhaps you recognize him. He's the original Emmy Award-winning host of HGTV shows like Elbow Room, Curb Appeal, The Block, and several others. Chip, how are you? Good morning.
I'm great, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So why is spring one of those great times for all those do-it-yourself projects that people are just ready to get involved in?
You know, I think it's the opportunity for us to take advantage of that kind of natural, energy-inducing life of all the trees coming out and that little sprig of warm weather. For me, it just boosts me full of energy, and it's like we need to harness that for productivity, doing the fun things, doing the necessary things, but doing it in a way that, you know, is not too cumbersome, that we can enjoy this process of all this new life.
I agree. So let's talk about where people should start with their spring projects, because they're like, okay, yes, I want to improve my house. Where to begin?
Well, one thing that I like to do to keep my motivation at this high level is to start with a project where I know I'm getting a great deal. Nothing kind of is a buzzkill, like feeling like you're paying too much for something. So I've actually found a site that's a little bit different than you might have experienced before. This is called Slick Deals. This is a community of millions of real people that work together to save. It's like shoppers helping other shoppers, and they do this by voting and vetting on these deals so that when you look at it, you can actually tell with confidence what deals are actually really great, which again, for me is awesome. It kind of takes that whole, having to cross comparison shop off the table, saving you time. Again, these are hundreds of deals vetted every day, everything from power tools to, bathroom vanities. They've got everything on there. So if you're in the market for something to buy, check out Slick Deals to give you that confidence that what you're buying is a great one.
What about suggestions for keeping our homes running smoothly? What about that?
Now, Andrew, one of the things, I can do so many things around the house, but one thing I despise is working on home systems like, your HVAC system if it goes out, or, your refrigerator and your other appliances. I recommend having a service in place where when the inevitable does happen, you know exactly where to go and you've got all of that already orchestrated. One great place to look is cinchhomeservices.com. What this is a home management system that's easy, that covers the repair and replacement of all of your home systems and appliances that you use every day. Basically, this is going to end up saving money, but ultimately what it's going to do is going to save you the hassle and the frustration of time of where am I looking, who can I trust to just come in and get the job done so that I can be focusing on the stuff that I actually enjoy doing, which is not working on any of these things. So again, it's a preventative measure to give you that peace of mind that ultimately we're all looking for. And again, we're talking about staying on this high of energy and motivation in the spring. Get this taken care of so it doesn't kind of undercut you. It's a great idea.
There's so many home improvement projects people are probably thinking about right now, but what about someone who wants a little something unique for the spring?
Well, I am one of those people. Every single year, I like to kind of reinvent the feel of some of the main areas in the house. But again, that can break the bank if you're not careful. So one of the most cost-effective big things you can do is refresh your space with new prints and frames and some wall decor that is cost-effective. Now, a place you can go is smallwoodhome.com. What they are, a family-owned business that they provide the quality, affordable, custom home solutions like your canvases and your framed prints. My kids, like everybody else's, grow so fast, and it seems like, oh my gosh, I just put that art up, but now I don't even recognize who that is in the picture. To keep things fresh and up to date, you can upload your personalized art, create a gallery wall. All of these things are very easy, and right now they're offering 20% off your first order. So again, keeping in that same theme of saving money keeps us motivated, and this is a quick and easy refresh to your house. I'm doing it it's definitely something that I think you would benefit from as well.
What about the other items that are on your spring to-do list, Wade? What you got?
Well, one thing that I did this year that was brand new, I've designed and installed so many pools for other people over the years, but this is the first year I actually did it for myself and my family. I was a little hesitant because I was like, oh, the last thing I need is another thing to maintain. You know, I'm not looking at the fun it could be. I'm saying, how can I make this easier? So I did all the research for you and found what I feel like is the best pool cleaning robot out there. This is from Aiper. This is called the Aiper Elite Pro. This is a very powerful, easy to use cordless pool cleaner that basically will suck up all that gross stuff on the walls and the bottom of your pool. Again, yeah, it actually climbs the walls, cleans those too. The whole idea is that it just does it for you so you can actually enjoy your pool and not having to be working on it all the time, which is great. And again, saving money is what I'm all about. They have a code right now on Aiper.com, $150 with the code AIPER150. Again, really great things. When this thing gets done, it even parks itself beside the edge of the pool, which makes it really easy to just grab, charge again for the next time. Really, really good stuff. Technology is our friend when it comes to that. And I've got all this up for us, Andrew, on tipsontv.com in case you missed anything or you're like, oh, I like that, but I forgot what it was called. Check out tipsontv.com. We've got all of it there. And for any other inspiration that you might be looking for, I'm always doing projects on my social media. At Chip Wade is my handle on everything. Check it out. Hopefully you'll be inspired to save money and pick the right stuff to make sure your attention is focused on the best productivity this spring to keep us all motivated and moving forward.
You've really motivated us on a Monday morning. Gosh, I mean, we're looking at all these things. We're taking notes here. We're like, hey, this looks really good. I love it. Chip Wade bringing it with the energy this Monday morning, first day of spring. Chip, thanks very much.
Andrew, thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate that. Okay, so let's switch gears here. Let's talk about the Shelby County Commission for a minute here. They're going to discuss possibly banning TikTok from any government-issued device at their meeting today. Walter Murphy has details on that.
Tensions grow between the United States government and TikTok, one of the world's most popular social media platforms. According to NBC News, the FBI and the U.S. Justice Department are looking into whether or not ByteDance, the Chinese-owned parent company of TikTok, illegally surveyed U.S. journalists by accessing their data and their IP addresses. The Biden administration also delivered an ultimatum to TikTok last week, telling them to sell off their shares of the app or face a total TikTok ban here in America.
What I can speak to is what the president believes that he needs to do, which is making sure that the safety and privacy of Americans are protected.
Scrutiny towards TikTok is mounting in the volunteer state as well.
Let every member cast their votes.
As the Tennessee State House is slated to vote this Thursday on a total ban of using the app on the Wi-Fi networks at all public colleges and universities, where it's expected to pass and head to Governor Bill Lee's desk to be signed into law.
At Monday's Shelby County Commission meeting, discussions will begin about banning TikTok from all Shelby County government-issued devices, which would make Shelby County the first local government in the state of Tennessee to ban one of the world's most popular social media platforms.
Really, the concern is that TikTok is owned by the Communist Party that runs the Chinese government, and it presents a danger to the security of our networks.
Shelby County Commissioner Mick Wright, who introduced the resolution, says it will only pertain to devices issued by the Shelby County government, not to employees' personal devices. But he does think Shelby Countyans, as well as the 150 daily users of TikTok across the country, should be weary of the threat.
TikTok presents a unique threat to do surveillance on Americans, and so I would just ask that citizens consider that before using those apps.
Wright says the vote will happen at commission on Monday, and he expects it to pass with bipartisan support. In Memphis, I'm Walter Murphy, Action News 5.
Hanson back here at the Action News 5 digital desk, and it's Women's History Month. I felt like it was a great reason to bring up a topic that I think is impacting so many women. Gender pay and opportunity gaps, they continue to be issues for women in the workforce. And joining me now to help talk more about what needs to be done, what can change this, is of course Kayla. She is joining us, Kayla Leibowitz, and she is the CEO and founder of Bundle Benefits. Good morning, how you doing?
Good morning, it's Friday, I'm doing well, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to have you on here. I want to dive into this topic a little bit more, but before we do that, can you tell me a little bit more about your company, Bundle Benefits, and what y'all are all about.
Yeah, sure. So Bundle, we are a online employee development and well-being solution that employers put into place in their organizations to help support employees, help retain them, help develop them professionally, and make sure they're well at work. So we provide thousands of one-on-one sessions and classes that employees can take advantage of to really hone in on their skills, development, and well-being.
You know, when we were talking about the gender pay gaps and the issues that we're still dealing with today, I mean, they're getting better, but they're still not quite where they need to be yet. And it's causing women to leave the workforce. What are some things that people can be doing? I mean, technology is advancing. How can maybe technology help people to be able to help people when it comes to equity in the workplace?
I mean, people definitely carry biases that impact judgments on decisions, mindsets, and behaviors in the workplace. And I think technology can really help negate those biases. So take AI, for example. AI can help with recruiting and hiring and remove biases. It can analyze salary data and find discrepancies. It can support career development by analyzing skills gaps. I mean, there's so much opportunity. I know AI is in the news a lot right now. Technology isn't perfect and it may still express biases, but that's where AI can keep getting better and retrained as an example. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for technology to create more equity. I think just workplaces have to be open to bringing those technologies in and just admitting that unfortunately people carry, inherent biases, and you need technology to help combat those and help make better decisions that will allow more diverse people at your company to succeed and just make it more equitable environment for all your employees.
We actually read a story recently, and it was just talking about this exact topic, and even how it's even worse for women that are minorities. And so a lot of times this starts at the top when it comes to addressing this issue. So what are some things that, employers, manager, business leaders can do to be able to help address this and make things better?
I think, I agree. It definitely starts at the top. I think awareness and understanding is the first step, and it's critical. The next step is really to drive changes in the processes and procedures in your own workplace, whether that means putting training and learning in place to develop skills and positive approaches to workplace practices. There's just so much opportunity within a company to really make sure that workplace equity is infused in your learning, training, and development, in your onboarding, right when a person joins your company. And then it has to be continuous throughout. But if leadership and managers aren't taking it as a priority in how they approach work every day, it's not going to spread to the rest of the organization. One of the big shipping companies I was reading about, they're obviously a very male-dominated industry. They developed this video game to help hiring managers develop skills and approaches to recruit new talent while avoiding cognitive bias. And I think that was a great way to implement technology with a part of the workplace that can have a lot of bias in recruiting and training. So I think, again, it's just infusing it throughout the organization, throughout all different teams and departments, and making sure that leadership is also taking it seriously and really showing through action that they are a part of, they want to be a part of the solution to improve workplace equity.
That was really creative, that thing, the one you talked about with the shipping company. I thought that was pretty cool. And a lot of times I think it's really employers taking a hard look and really evaluating kind of the situation.
Exactly.
And just realizing that issue is still there. So we talked about your company. Let's really talk about what they're doing to help women.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're a women-led company. Our three members of our leadership team are all women, and we're probably the majority of us are women. That again, we want to support all women in all phases of their careers and lives, whether they have families or not, whether they're junior or senior. So whether it's acknowledging that some employees may need a couple hours in the day to pick up their kids so that they can be more present at work, but also feel good about what's going on at home, or maybe they need some extra learning and development that is not part of our normal process. I think it's making sure you're looking at every individual employee and providing them the resources they need, because every employee is different, right? Everyone has different needs. Everyone has different career prospects that they want to pursue. So I think it's really sitting down. Every manager sits down with their employee and says, what do you need? What are you working towards? How do you want to advance in your career? What are obstacles that are preventing that? And how can we work with you? So again, it's whether it's you need an hour in the day to pick up your kids, or you need an hour hour a day to do something wellness related so that you can be more focused at work, or you feel like you need more training to advance. Whatever it is, we want to make a really personalized and tailored plan with which each individual. And, you know, it's not just women, it's everyone at our company deserves that. And I think, again, it's really taking that personalized, tailored look that can really help support women and all employees in the workplace.
You know, we use the term opportunity gap. Can we just kind of talk more about what that is, why businesses and employers should care about it?
Yes, the opportunity gap, how we look at it, is a way that it's basically when uncontrollable factors like, you know, like your race, your language, your gender, maybe your economic or family situation, it can contribute to lower rates of success within educational and career prospects and achievements. I think that it's really important for businesses to care about this, because opportunity gaps within their organization can have a really big impact on retention, employee satisfaction, and just overall company performance. So companies really need to take, like you said, a hard look and identify and eliminate barriers within their organization to create a more inclusive culture and really advance all employees. I mean, there could be so many opportunity gaps that you're not even aware of, like inadequate access to learning and training, limited capability to network and develop work relationships, because maybe you have to work in a certain environment or you can't stay late to talk to employees, bias in hiring and promotions, lack of diversity in management and senior leadership. I mean, there's so many opportunity gaps that can be found at companies, but they have to take a deep, hard look. They have to listen. They have to really put the time in to examine what are the opportunity gaps that exist at our company and how can we provide solutions that really will, you know, drill down on those and make sure that we are looking at them honestly and thinking about how we can really eliminate those barriers and just create like a better work environment and culture for every type of employee.
Of course, eliminating those barriers. What are some things that, how can people really identify the problems at the workplace? And then from that, after you identify them, being able to implement solutions to change what's going on.
I think first it's awareness. You have to get aware. You have to look at every aspect of your organization from the top to the bottom across departments, and then listening to people. This might be like an internal survey if you're a larger organization, or maybe it's talking to your ERGs or DEI rep to gain insights. Sometimes if things are that bad, people don't want to fill out a company survey or talk to anyone because there's fears of retribution. So I think that's an opportunity for companies to potentially bring in an outside expert to assess the situation, provide a non-biased climate check on the company, and then help build out a plan to fill those needs and challenges. But I think you need advocates within your organization that are driving this through and influencing it. You need those people throughout the organization from the top to the bottom that want to be a part of that change and hold people accountable. And then I think once you identify what the gaps are and then solutions, it could be anything from having listening groups to mentorship to sponsoring individuals from underrepresented groups and helping them develop skills and gain exposure and advance in their careers. But I think, again, it takes, you have to start with listening to people and having awareness, understanding, looking throughout the organization, and then the solutions can, again, be small to big, but I think they have to be throughout the company.
You know, we've done stories here at the Digital Desk where we've talked a lot about things like imposter syndrome, and it's something that impacts so many women and they deal with. What advice do you know, it's Women's History Month, what advice would you have for women when it comes to making sure that they are getting what they're worth in their job? You know, a lot of times I think sometimes women have a hard time just asking for what they want and are feeling like imposters in their own lives. What advice would you give women out there?
My advice is that you have to push for yourself, and you have to be like your biggest advocate. It can be really scary to ask for things. You might feel like you don't deserve them, or it's just like your manager's intimidating no matter what gender they are. But you really have to be your own advocate. And I always say to like my direct reports, what's the worst that can happen? You ask for a promotion, they say no. What's the worst that can happen? You say, how long do you think it'll take me to get that promotion? Then what's the worst that can happen? They're just going to tell you it might take a year, but at least you've asked and you know what it takes to get there. If you don't ask for things, you'll never know. So I really think you have to be your biggest advocate, and you have to learn to speak up. If you're not confident and you feel like you need that confidence, ask your manager for development training. Ask them to get, help with getting feedback or communication skills. But you need to ask. If you don't ask, no one will know. And maybe your manager's not asking you enough. So push them to ask you, to ask them what they can do to help you. So I really think it's making sure you have an open line of communication and speaking up. It can be really hard, but if you don't do it, you're just going to be left behind. So I really think it's all about speaking up and being your biggest advocate.
Okay, Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk on the first day of spring. And, we're thinking about working out. And, of course, that is one of the big New Year's resolutions. But it's March now. The sun's out. We're supposed to be working out all the time, getting into shape. Well, you got to worry about your body and your health and your fitness and making sure that you don't hurt anything or strain anything or break anything or tear anything. March is also National Athletic Training Month, and joining us right now is Emily Collier. She is a certified athletic trainer with Campbell Clinic. Good morning, Emily. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well, thank you. So tell us why it's so important for many of us, both young, the youth out there, and adults alike, to work with an athletic trainer when we're these weekend warrior types that love to just go out in the outdoors and have some fun.
So a good comparison I like to use to describe my profession is that athletic trainers are kind of like the Swiss Army knife or the utility player on a baseball team. We have a lot of knowledge with a lot of various topics involving sports medicine. So we have knowledge on injury prevention, how to properly treat and rehabilitate injuries. We have knowledge on modalities and extra things that you can do to help heal your injuries faster. We have knowledge in emergent and immediate care. So we can just kind of do a lot of different things that can get you from point A to point B a lot faster when it comes to injuries.
I understand that, and I know that Campbell Clinic works a lot with various sports teams, not only the Grizzlies or the Tigers, but also some local high school athletes as well. What are some of the most common injuries that you see, and perhaps what are some of the best ways to prevent that?
Yeah, so I work at a high school full-time and provide sports medicine coverage to a school that has 17 varsity sports. So we see a lot of injuries, but some of the most common ones that we deal with are sprains and strains of every muscle or tendon or ligament you could probably see. And then on the more severe side, we see ACL tears, a lot of concussions, broken bones. Unfortunately, there's not really a perfect formula to preventing injuries, but a good rule of thumb is just making sure that you warm up properly for the sport that you're about to perform. So I wouldn't recommend a football player do a volleyball player's warm up or a basketball player do a golf warm up. You just want to make sure that you're warming up those muscles that you're about to use. Secondly, I would advise that you have to listen to your body. So that if something's not feeling right, then you need to either take a step back and take a break, or if it's serious enough, you need to, follow up with your athletic trainer or maybe go and see a physician about it, because there's things that we can do to help progress faster.
I always hear that it's so important to stretch before any kind of physical activity. What about ending with stretch? Which one's more important?
So usually when you're getting into exercise, you want to do what's called a dynamic warm-up, which is stretching with movement, because if you're just holding that static stretch or, just standing and touching your toes, that type of a stretch, it's not as effective. It doesn't get your blood flowing quite as well as a dynamic warm-up does. So you really want a little bit of both. You want to do a dynamic warm-up at the beginning of the workout, and then at the end, it's okay to do some of that static stretching just to kind of help cool your muscles down, prepare your body for that rest phase.
What advice would you give parents and perhaps some student athletes out there who may be watching this? What advice would you give them to just kind of avoid injuries out there? You know, a lot of times you'll hear coaches and maybe some athletes, some former athletes will say, okay, well, if your son or daughter is involved in a sport, you want to make sure that they're involved in multiple sports so they work different muscles during different times of the year and they're balanced. Does that make any sense? Give me your best advice.
Yeah, that's a great point that you bring up because there's so much research out there now speaking against sports specialization. So only playing one sport for more than 8 months at a time is not great for your body. You can get a lot of overuse injuries from that. So more and more we're recommending, go ahead and play 2 or 3 sports a year just so that you're changing it up and you're using different muscles and you're not just being repetitive for your entire athletic career. That can come with a lot of benefits. And also I think it's a good mental benefit too, because you're not in the same setting every single day. You have something different to look forward to maybe when the springtime comes around versus the sport that you're playing in the fall. Sports specialization is okay when you're older, but when you're a youth athlete, go out and try whatever interests you, and that's okay.
So, Emily, we know that it's so important to have certain people on the sidelines during games, whether it's collegiate games, professional games, high school games. Can you talk briefly with us about the importance of having an athletic trainer on the sidelines during these kinds of competitions?
So especially with it being March, I'm sure that you're seeing a lot of athletic trainers on TV right now with March Madness, and that's just the greatest way to kick off National Athletic Training Month is getting to see and highlight all of the athletic trainers that work in all sorts of settings. It's important that we're on the sidelines and sitting on the bench with the team because we have training for emergent and immediate care in the case of, a sudden cardiac arrest or any other emergency that may pop up. But we're also there for the little things, like if your star player rolls his ankle and needs to get it evaluated to see whether or not he can go back in or not. That's one of the main reasons why it's great to have us there for that immediate access, because we can make that decision whether or not they are able to continue on with the game, or if you need to change your game plan and maybe put in the next guy. We can deal with, anything from a rolled ankle to a cut, a broken finger. We're trained to kind of deal with everything. And in your career, you see pretty much anything and everything you could ever expect.
I bet, and that's why there are so many certifications that you guys have. After your name, there's all kinds of different certifications. Can you briefly explain some of those certifications? And I guess you have to update it almost every year, right?
Yeah. The LAT behind my name stands for Licensed Athletic Trainer. So that just means that I'm licensed to practice in the state of Tennessee. Every state usually has different standards that you have to qualify for in order to get that license. So that's the most important credential that I own, because it allows me to practice athletic training in the state of Tennessee. And then the ATC behind my name stands for Athletic Training Certified. That just means that I have passed the board of certification exam to be an athletic trainer. And then all of the other stuff after that is just additional certifications that you can go out and get. So the PN behind my name stands for Precision Nutrition. So I'm a certified nutrition coach. And it's really important to go out and get extra certifications, because the world of medicine and the world of sports medicine is constantly changing. There's new discoveries, new techniques that are coming out almost every single day. So in order to keep up with and provide the best care to our patients, it's important to go out and learn those new techniques, because there's not a perfect way to treat an injury. Every body reacts differently to a form of treatment. So what works for some athlete might not work for another athlete. So just having those extra tools in your toolbox really help to make the treatment and rehabilitation process a lot easier.
All right, Emily Collier, we really appreciate your time this morning and giving us the insight into what you do and how important your job is each and every day for so many different athletes, whether it's collegiate, high school, professional, and on this National Athletic Training Month. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. A cold start to the day, and we keep it pretty chilly all day today. 47 degrees by lunchtime. We're at 53 degrees at 3. Ride home from work at 5:52, and then upper 40s at 7. Also, something to note about today, not only is it cooler than normal, but also clouds roll in here as we get a little later in the afternoon. So clouds will gradually increase. We'll still end up around 53 today, a low temperature of 38 in Memphis tonight. So there will still be potential for frost, especially for areas in West Tennessee and eastern Arkansas. As I mentioned, clouds build in. So by 3-4 o'clock, it's cloudy across the area. We keep the clouds in place tonight, tomorrow morning, though, still dry as you wake up. This is 9 a.m. on Tuesday. Upper 30s and lower 40s across the area, but rain starts to move in through the afternoon and into the evening. So by 2-3 o'clock, you'll start to see a few showers, even through 7 o'clock at night Tuesday. West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, seeing some spotty rain, mostly light showers in Shelby County and into eastern Arkansas. But notice up towards Dyersburg, there could be some heavy rain. There's a low pressure system parked to our north, which is why we'll have that chance for rain on Tuesday. But rain chances still at only about 20 to 30% Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Look at Friday, 60% chance of rain. That will be as a cold front is moving through the Mid-South. So some pockets of heavy rain where you see this yellow color here right around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Friday is when it'll be pouring. You'll also have some thunderstorms that could have some gusty winds with this system. That would be the main threat with any thunderstorms that develop. And then by 11 o'clock at night, most of that rain comes to an end, but at least early evening, 6-7 o'clock at night on Friday, you'll probably still have some lingering rain. So for tomorrow, maybe a 1/10 to a 1/4 inch, could be up to 1/2 inch tomorrow and Wednesday in Blytheville and Dyersburg. But then on Fridays when we'll get most of that rain. So it'll be over that 1 inch mark in Memphis, could get up to 2 inches through the end of the week in Wynn, 3 inches possibly in Dyersburg. Pretty good rainmaker for us here, especially on Friday. We increase temperatures over the next few days. 53 today, 57 tomorrow, 70 on Wednesday, 75 degrees on Thursday, and still hanging out near 70 on Friday.
A convicted killer will soon be free despite having decades left to serve his prison sentence. The Arkansas Supreme Court reversed and dismissed the Marion man's 2020 conviction of killing an off-duty Forest City police officer back in 2018. Action News 5's Stephanie Douglas reports.
29-year-old DeMarcus Parker was found guilty in 2020 of shooting and killing then 25-year-old Forest City police officer Oliver Johnson in West Memphis. But the crime happened in 2018. Violation of a speedy trial law is why a man with a lengthy rap sheet is basically able to walk scot-free.
It's sad. It's just so sad. I just don't understand.
Nearly 5 years ago.
But I think that he would want us all to persevere and he would want his family to carry on.
In West Memphis, you may remember a community mourning the death of 25-year-old Officer Oliver Johnson. The off-duty cop was hit by a stray bullet in his home at the Meadows apartment while playing video games with his 2 daughters.
My nephew is dead today because of another young man who somehow lost his way. And we need to do something more.
DeMarcus Donnell Parker was arrested and charged for Johnson's murder in 2018, but did not face trial until September of 2020. He was found guilty and received 2 life sentences plus an additional 835 years. But according to Arkansas Supreme Court judge, in the 405 days that Parker was denied a speedy trial, his constitutional rights were violated.
Excuse my language, but I am pissed off. Justice once served.
Arkansas law requires the defendant to be brought to trial within 12 months, West Memphis Mayor Marco McClendon accuses the state's legal team for dropping the ball.
And it's all because our prosecutors are doing shabby work. They just haven't started doing shabby work. They've been doing shabby work, and I'm calling them to the carpet.
Now, Parker will get a clean start, and his dozens of conviction, including first-degree murder, have been vacated. Mayor McClendon hopes he comes back rehabilitated.
I'm hoping and praying that this young man have learned from it. I'm hoping that God touches his heart and his mind to make him go into a different direction.
Now, at last check, DeMarcus Parker is still listed as an inmate in the maximum security unit in Tucker, Arkansas. Tomorrow, the city of West Memphis and police officials plan to meet with prosecutors on the case to figure out how to reconsider and prevent this from happening again. We'll keep you updated. Reporting, Stephanie Douglas, Action News 5.
We now know the identity of the victim surrounding a shooting investigation that involved a Shelby County deputy in Bartlett over the weekend. The TBI says 44-year-old Melissa Horton was shot and killed Saturday afternoon here at the intersection of Ellis Road, Golden Valley Lane, and Bartlett, according to investigators. Horton reportedly involved in a domestic dispute with her fiancé in Fayette County before a car was spotted in Bartlett by the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. During a traffic stop, shots were fired. The deputy involved was not hurt. Tennessee state lawmakers getting involved after 5 kids were taken into state custody after a traffic stop. This happened back on February 17th, Coffee County, Tennessee, just an hour south of Nashville. According to the arrest warrant, Deontay Williams, the kid's father, was pulled over for having a dark-colored tint and traveling in the left lane without passing. The arrest warrant says the trooper smelled marijuana from the vehicle, arrested him after finding marijuana inside.
I've never heard of children being ripped away from their family for a misdemeanor charge on some simple drug possession when marijuana is legal in half the states in the country and medical marijuana is legal in 38 states in this country.
Well, that's State Senator London Lamar. She says the Department of Children's Services still has the children in custody. DCS representatives say they cannot share specifics on this case. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee pushing a bill that would shut down the agency overseeing the Tennessee Department of Children's Services. The Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth, or the TCCY, watches for children's issues between different administrations and governors. Under the bill, the duties would go to DCS and the State Mental Health Department. The TCCY says the move was unexpected.
Most states have kind of a nonprofit that is a broad child-serving advocacy group that addresses issues, and that's never really been necessary in Tennessee because TCCY has continually filled that role so efficiently and effectively for such a long time.
State Majority Leader Jack Johnson is sponsoring the bill. When asked why, he said, quote, let me pull that up for you here. The criticism of the efficiency of the TCCY is not in conflict with our commitment to care for Tennessee children. He goes on to say that this legislative session has been focused on improving the lives of children and families, including investing in an additional $190 million in DCS. This will be in a House committee sometime tomorrow, moving on to the state Senate on Wednesday. Okay, markets are on edge after the second and third largest bank failures in U.S. history happened earlier this month. The tension may soon be easing as a global effort is addressing the issue. It's still uncertain to say. John Lawrence reports.
Hours after UBS, Switzerland's largest bank, agreed to accumulate the ailing Credit Suisse in an emergency buyout.
The takeover of Credit Suisse by UBS is the best solution for restoring the confidence that has been lacking in financial markets recently.
The Federal Reserve and other global central banks announced a coordinated effort they say will, quote, enhance the provision of liquidity via the standing U.S. dollar liquidity swap line arrangements. In layman's terms, they want to keep credit available for households and businesses. But some analysts still have concerns and questions.
What happens to the rest of sort of these regional mid-sized banks in the United States? Are they going to face outflows this week? Are people going to be nervous about banks who are sitting on a lot of unrealized losses or banks who have a lot of uninsured depositors?
Goldman Sachs says there's a 35% chance of the U.S. entering a recession within the next year due to these banking problems. That's a 10% hike since the start of the crisis.
We don't know what's going to happen. We do know that financial instability threatens what has been a very strong economic recovery. And for that reason, we need to act forcefully and with clear communication to prevent any contagion in our financial sector.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
All right, the company Perigio is voluntarily recalling some of its Gerber Good Start Soothe Pro powdered infant formula. It's in this package there. They say it may be contaminated with bacteria. It was made between January 2nd and the 18th of this year. The company says so far no products have shown any signs of bacteria. No one's become sick either. The company says the recall is out of an abundance of caution. If you have this, go ahead and toss it out or contact the company for a refund.
Amanda Hansen back here at the Action News 5 digital desk. And you know, we've been talking about mental health here this morning. And so have you heard about the Living Well Network? It is a great service that is offered by Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. And joining us now to talk more about it is Allison White, the supervisor for the Living Well Network. Glad to have you back here on the digital desk. How you doing?
Great. Thanks, Amanda.
So for people that maybe aren't familiar with the Living Well Network, can you talk about the work y'all do?
Sure. So we are a free community service, and we offer assessment and referral to behavioral health services. So anyone in the community can call us, and we will assess their need, and we'll match them with the right provider. So Amanda, think of us as a concierge service almost. So we're going to help connect you to the right person. And we also offer free mental health education to anyone in the community, churches, schools, civic groups, professional organizations. So we do a lot here.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I know y'all stay busy. Can you tell us about this upcoming mental health breakfast that y'all have down the line?
Sure. So our 9th annual mental health breakfast is Tuesday, May the 2nd. It's over at the Hilton in East Memphis. And we are really excited to have our keynote speaker this year, Joe Pantalone. He is an Emmy Award-winning actor. You might remember him from The Sopranos, which was a long-running, great TV show. He's also been in The Matrix and some other TV and movie. His list goes on. And he is going to be talking about his battle with chronic depression. And we're also having a breakout session after our keynote speaker. And we have a local therapist who is going to be talking about all things men's mental health.
And, you know, I do want to talk, you know, with men, I think it's so important to be able to focus on their mental health. I think sometimes, a lot of times, men avoid that. They don't want to seem like they're having a hard time or they're struggling. Can we talk about some of the misconceptions when it comes to men and mental health?
So I think one of the biggest myths that especially men have about their own mental health is that, well, men don't get sad. We don't cry. Well, we know that that's not true. We know men suffer from depression and mental health issues just as much as women do. They are less likely to seek treatment. And I think the reason is because of these, you know, social norms that, you know, and these myths that we have that men are supposed to be the strong ones, right? But if you look at statistics for suicide, for example, men make up 78% of all suicides in this country. So we know they're struggling, and we want them to be able to change that narrative and say it's okay not to be okay. We want them to seek out treatment when they need it.
And what are some signs maybe people could look out for to know if someone's struggling?
Right. So I think a lot of times with men, you might see more irritability for a certain period of time. You might see more decrease in their hobbies or activities they used to enjoy. And I think they're less like you're more likely to see that as opposed to maybe the sadness, maybe they're not getting up and not taking care of their hygiene routines, although you can see that. I think though, you know, we're looking out for other things too. The change in patterns and the change in behavior and the irritability more so.
And how can people contact the Living Well Network if they're saying, hey, I think I could benefit from the resources that they offer? How can they get in touch with y'all?
So So we have a website. It's www.thelivingwellnetwork.org. We have lots of information on there. We also are here Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and you can call us at 901-762-8558.
And again, that 9th annual mental health breakfast is coming up May 2nd. It's a big deal for you guys. I know the proceeds go to benefit the work that y'all do and to continue that work of offering that free mental health resources to people in the community. So, Allison, I appreciate having you taking the time to join us today, and you have a good rest of the morning, all right?
Great. Thanks so much.
All right, well, the Alzheimer's Association just released the finding of its 2023 Alzheimer's Disease Facts and Figures report. Now, this is an annual report that reveals new insights and findings from patients and primary care physicians on current barriers preventing early discussion of memory loss and cognitive decline, along with several other key takeaways. And Dr. Nicole Purcell is joining us this morning to talk more about it. She is a practicing neurologist and senior director of clinical practice at the Alzheimer's Association. Dr. Purcell, good morning. How you doing?
Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you on talking about this topic that I think impacts so many people, whether indirectly or directly. And so let's just talk about this new report and just some of the things that it uncovered.
Our 2023 Facts and Figures report shows that Alzheimer's disease continues to have a significant impact on individuals affected with the disease, their family members, and our country as a whole. There's more than 6.7 million Americans over the age of 65 living with Alzheimer's disease in our country, and that's a significant number.
So what about here in Tennessee? Is there anything specific as far as what's happening here in this area specifically?
So in the state of Tennessee, there's approximately 120,000 individuals affected with Alzheimer's disease, and there's more than 367,000 friends and family members providing that care.
Oh, wow. And we've done stories about, caregivers and just the difficulties of being a caregiver. Can we talk, though, some about why doctors and patients maybe are a bit hesitant to discuss things like memory and thinking, and what kind of concerns do they have with that?
So individuals reported feeling more comfortable talking to their friends or family members about their symptoms so that they can compare notes to see if what they're experiencing is normal or whether it's abnormal. They're also concerned that perhaps they'll get a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's disease, and that's a serious condition. Primary care physicians reported delay or not bringing up the concerns with patients, and they generally wait until the individual or the caregiver brings it up during a clinical visit.
And what about when it comes to treatments? Is it helpful the earlier that you are able to maybe pinpoint what's going on, where you can start doing treatments or medications or something to help slow the progression? Is that why early conversations are so important?
Early conversations are important so that the individual can be assessed for their cognition and get a diagnosis. We currently have 2 medications that are FDA approved for Alzheimer's disease, and it's important to note that they're indicated for the early stages of Alzheimer's disease or mild cognitive impairment stage. So it's very important to talk to your doctor about these concerns, to get a diagnosis, and to be assessed for possible treatment if that's part of the care plan.
What can be done to maybe make these conversations more common routine when it comes to talking with your doctor? What needs to happen?
I think it's important to educate individuals on just discussing this with their doctor. And primary care physicians report that if they start a clinical visit with an informal conversation to get the patient more comfortable and relaxed, that they can get the information they need about the patient's cognition. And I think it's important to decrease the stigma and to incorporate these discussions in every clinical visit.
Any kind of surprising things that came out in this report?
I think the most surprising thing is that these discussions between patients and individuals and their primary care provider are just not happening. So I think we need to increase awareness and get people to have these discussions.
And so is there a place where people can go and get some more information if they want to be able to kind of be more aware of these types of problems and addressing them?
they can visit our website at alz.org. You can find our facts and figures report there, and there is a significant amount of information on dementia and Alzheimer's disease there.
Dr. Purcell, anything else you want to make sure to mention before we let you go today?
My only thing is, if you or a loved one is having concerns with your memory, please talk to your doctor.
Well, Dr. Nicole Purcell, practicing neurologist and senior director, clinical practice for the Alzheimer's Association. I really appreciate your time today, and thank you so much for sharing the latest from this report.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. There's some new research out there that shows a key role that immigrants play in 13 states when it comes to healthcare. We know healthcare is a growing industry, and it is going to continue to grow, and so there is a constant need, a demand for workers in that industry. Let's bring in Steve Hubbard with the American Immigration Council to discuss more about these recent findings with this research. Steve, good morning. Tell us more about this research.
Yeah, so we looked at immigrants and how important they are to the healthcare system across 13 states. And of course, Tennessee was one of those states that we looked at. And we wanted to ensure that we looked at healthcare practitioners, and these are medical doctors, nurses, medical technicians, and how important they are to the healthcare system within Tennessee. And we found that within the healthcare system, that 5.9% of healthcare workers, healthcare practitioners were immigrants to this in Tennessee. And more specifically, physicians, it was 18.7% of physicians and surgeons were immigrants within Tennessee's healthcare system. So overall, when you're looking at shortages in the healthcare system, it's important to think about how the important that immigrants play in the labor force within Tennessee's healthcare system, and specifically looking at policies and other areas that encourage immigrants to come to the state, and for immigrants to stay in the state and work within the healthcare system.
You know, there was a lot of shortage of workers on so many different industries for the better part of a year or so. Is there a shortage of workers needed in the healthcare industry? And if so, how are immigrants meeting the demand there?
So when we looked at the overall increase in job postings, of online job postings, we compared 2017 to 2021, and we saw the increase in job postings rise about a little over 30% for healthcare practitioners. And so that shows that there's a demand, and some of the specifics, when you looked at specific occupations, you saw even higher increases, even things like over 500% increases in job postings for opticians, 80% for dentists. So there seems to be, when you're looking at the job demand within Tennessee and as well as other states across the country, you're seeing a great demand for job postings in those occupations.
You know, this next stat I thought was a no-brainer. The demand for bilingual healthcare workers is on the rise. Tell me about that sector.
Yeah, we're seeing that, of course, all over the United States. In Tennessee, we saw an increase in bilingual. When you looked at the job postings and they required bilingual communication skills, that increased over 200%. In the number of job postings. So that is an important skill that is needed. Of course, when you look at immigrants, many times they, of course, if they're coming in and if they're Spanish speaking or another, French speaking or what have you from their country, they already have that skill. Of course, they already have that bilingual skill, that language skill that makes them, attractive for those type of positions.
Okay, and then I understand there's a growing need for healthcare workers in several different states, but they, in some cases, I'm understanding they can't practice in the state. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's sometimes you will have someone who has been trained internationally from another country, and maybe they have and they can meet our standards of meeting those requirements, but they do not specifically have a U.S. medical degree, but they meet the standards, the board standards. They are comparable to other physicians in their skills. And sometimes they can't practice. And we've seen that in states have moved policies, for instance, in Minnesota and Washington, have moved policies to encourage internationally trained medical professionals to work in the state as long as they meet the requirements needed to practice medicine or to be nurses or what have you within the state.
Steve Hubbard, American Immigration Council. We really appreciate these new findings from this research. Thanks very much for coming on the Digital Desk.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Good morning. A cold start to the day, and we keep it pretty chilly all day today. 47 degrees by lunchtime. We're at 53 degrees at 3. A ride home from work at 5:52, and then upper 40s at 7. Also, something to note about today, not only is it cooler than normal, but also clouds roll in here as we get a little later in the afternoon. So clouds will gradually increase. We'll still end up around 53 today, a low temperature of 38 in Memphis tonight. So there will still be potential for frost, especially for areas in West Tennessee and eastern Arkansas. As I mentioned, clouds build in. So by 3-4 o'clock, it's cloudy across the area. We keep the clouds in place tonight, tomorrow morning, though, still dry as you wake up. This is 9 a.m. on Tuesday, upper 30s and lower 40s across the area, but rain starts to move in through the afternoon and into the evening. So by 2-3 o'clock, you'll start to see a few showers, even through 7 o'clock at night Tuesday, West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, seeing some spotty rain, mostly light showers in Shelby County and into eastern Arkansas. But notice up towards Dyersburg, there could be some heavy rain. There's a low pressure system parked to our north, which is why we'll have that chance for rain on Tuesday. But rain chances still at only about 20 to 30% Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Look at Friday, 60% chance of rain. That will be as a cold front is moving through the Mid-South. So some pockets of heavy rain where you see this yellow color here right around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Friday is when it'll be pouring. You'll also have some thunderstorms that could have some gusty winds with this system. That would be the main threat with any thunderstorms that develop. And then by 11 o'clock at night, most of that rain comes to an end, but at least early evening, 6-7 o'clock at night on Friday, you'll probably still have some lingering rain. So for tomorrow, maybe a 1/10 to a 1/4 inch, could be up to 1/2 an inch tomorrow and Wednesday in Blytheville and Dyersburg. But then on Fridays when we'll get most of that rain. So it'll be over that 1 inch mark in Memphis, could get up to 2 inches through the end of the week in Wynn, 3 inches possibly in Dyersburg. Pretty good rainmaker for us here, especially on Friday. We increase temperatures over the next few days. 53 today, 57 tomorrow, 70 on Wednesday, 75 degrees on Thursday, and still hanging out near 70 on Friday.
All right, back here in the Action News 5 digital desk, I want to tell you about Memphis Grizzlies superstar Ja Morant. He is eligible to return to the team today. In fact, it is expected to happen. This follows his 8-game suspension by the NBA, and he is not expected to play tonight when Memphis takes on the Dallas Mavericks. We already know that. They issued a statement about that earlier, but it's still very important to talk about the details regarding his healing journey and the time he's taken away and the various therapies he's received. Sydney Gray reports.
Grizz star Ja Morant is temporarily off the court.
I felt like, I was releasing stress, and I felt like it was healthy for me. Which it wasn't, and that caused me to do some things that I shouldn't have.
The Grizzlies star player Ja Morant is set to return to FedEx Forum and his teammates. Morant was suspended for his actions off the court that include showing off a gun on social media at a strip club. Ja has since opened up about steps he's taken to correct his behavior and start his healing journey.
I've been doing, Reiki treatment. I've been doing anxiety breathing, different stuff to help me manage that and release, all that stuff from my body.
Licensed therapist Jordy Smith says people may use Reiki for anxiety and depression, and while she says there's limited research on it, Reiki has been around for years, originating in Japan.
Reiki treatment is a form of treatment that utilizes the body. So Reiki means like universal life energy, and so it's really just dealing with the energy within your body. One of the things that it does is keep you present. So a lot of people who do practice this, they can actually practice it on themselves. themselves once you kind of learn the therapy.
Smith says therapy is critical, especially for celebrities like Ja.
Being in the spotlight is rough, right? Because they're humans too. So I think acknowledging it is important because we all need healing to some extent. And it's important that we just have a good sense of self and that we have the insight to see, okay, what are we struggling with? How can we move forward with this?
According to Smith, there isn't just one way to heal. Your healing journey should be personalized to you. She says she's seen lives transform when people do the work.
Therapy works as well as you do. Similar to going to the gym. You can go to the gym and sit, but if you don't actually use the equipment properly, then you're not going to see any results. So therapy works as well as the person that's using it.
Josh says he's looking forward to the future.
When I get back out there, I'm going to be ready to go and ready, push for a ring.
Sydney Gray, Action News 5.
So have you been able to check out the latest edition of Memphis Magazine? Turn through the pages. There's so many great articles in this month's edition, and we're going to be talking about one of them this morning. Joining us here at the Action News 5 digital desk is Abigail Morisi. She is the arts editor for Memphis Magazine. Abigail, good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm glad to have you on here. We always enjoy these interviews with Memphis Magazine, Memphis Flyer. Y'all always have a good pulse on what's happening here in the community, especially the arts community. I'm looking forward to diving in and talking more to you about this piece about Jean Siegel. I understand it's about how she went from commercial literature to now her first exhibition over at the Dixon, her first solo expedition. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so Jean Siegel, do y'all hear an echo?
Hearing it. I'm not hearing an echo.
So Jean Siegel, she started out doing, like you said, commercial illustration. She even illustrated for the magazine, for the Flyer, and now she has her own exhibit in the Dixon Museum, and she's so excited because it's like her first time being in a museum setting, and this is what she's wanted to do throughout her whole career, throughout her whole life, is like be able to have her art like in public facing settings and be able to show that side of her rather than being dictated what to do for like illustrations for a magazine or for the Flyer. And the choices she's made, they've been like beautiful. They're like landscapes over by across the river, and she just takes these beautiful sketches and she details them, these trees, and she does watercolors, which are a little bit less detailed, but they're still like gorgeous to look at, obviously. Yeah.
I think it's great. I love to see the different types of materials that she uses, from watercolor to the black and white, and it really kind of brings the art alive. And so when you were talking to her, what were some of the things that she said? What was it that, just about how exciting this was to be able to have this exhibit now?
Yeah, I mean, she was just glowing. Like her smile on her face was so big when she was talking about the black and white drawings in particular, because that's what she's really excited about. And she's like, this is what's been most successful for me. I think that means like both financially and, personally, because the trees have a lot of like meaning for her. That's where she would meet up with her boyfriend across the river of the trees, and she grew up in like forested area. And so like being able to bring back her childhood, but also like her current husband and their love. And yeah, she's just, I think, beaming. She's beaming. It was lovely speaking with her.
And it's such a tough journey. I mean, for someone that takes on a career as an artist. And so to see kind of where she started, where she is now, and for her to be showcasing at the Dixon, it just has to be kind of full circle for her. Is that kind of what it seemed like for you? I mean, from just talking with her?
She would talk about like, her days as like a poor artist. Making illustrations for the magazine, the Flyer, didn't pay much. And she had also talked about, the misogyny back in the day and how like the men would get paid more or have bigger opportunities with our own magazine. But now she's able to overcome that, I guess. And like you said, be in a museum, and that's exciting to have like her due, because she definitely deserves that. And yeah.
And from what I understand, it looks like the exhibit is very inspired by the areas she's grown up around and called home. Is that right?
It's inspired by across the river in Dacus Lake. That's where like her boyfriend, or now husband, her boyfriend at the time, lived, and I think that's where she like fell in love with nature, because she had grown up in Arkansas, like over by a really forested area, and so being brought back to nature, which is something that she loves. She loves to hike and she loves to just be outside. And so being back there with someone that she like is deeply in love with was just something that I think re-inspired her. That's how she explained it to me.
For sure. It was personal. It was personal. I grew up taking art, so I love to see kind of the different materials and just the color and hearing her story. And like you said, being a woman, kind of trying to make her mark. It's interesting to hear these kind of stories. And, you know, Abigail, I know we've had you here on the Digital Desk before, and I love going through these stories, by the way. I think they're great. And of course, people can read more about it in this month's edition of Memphis Magazine. They need to go subscribe. Tell us a little bit about you. I know you oversee the arts column. Are you from Memphis? And how did you end up kind of covering this as your beat?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm from New Orleans, but I went to Rhodes, and that's how I came to know Memphis.
Yeah.
But I've always loved the arts. Like when I was little, I was always drawing and painting, and at one point, I wanted to become an artist. But I think over time, I just grew more interested in writing. And how I started writing for the arts, I think they had an empty spot, and I was like, I'll take it. I'll write something. The first thing I wrote about was a professor at U of M who did these really zoomed in pictures of particles or metals. And from there, I just kind of was like, this is what I want to do, because, it's combining what I used to love to do and what I now love to do. And I get to be creative and fun. And yeah, it's been really exciting to meet all these artists, and they're so cool. Everyone I meet and talk to, they're so interesting.
I bet. I can only imagine. For me, so I'm kind of like you. I was really into art growing up. I loved, I took all the classes in high school. I took some in college. I went to U of M. And for me, this is now my way of being creative, and my form of self-expression is, I film video. I do a lot of video editing and things. So it's interesting to see someone kind of on the same end of things. And now you're telling a lot of these artists' stories. And I'm sure that that's really cool to be able to dig down and share kind of what they've been through and whatnot. Anything that stood out from this piece, or something that maybe didn't make the cut, that you want to share with people watching this morning?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, like I said, she's such a lovely woman to talk to, Jean, and talking with her, and she's so humble about it. Even her watercolors, she's like, well, this is more of a hobby of mine. I just kind of threw them in the show to add color. And you're like, these are very beautiful. Why would you, demote that? Yeah, but it's a lovely show, and I definitely recommend seeing it. She'll be speaking at the Dixon right before it closes at some point in time. So
nice. Yeah. And how long is her exhibit going to be on display?
Until April 9th.
Okay, great. So people have time. They can go out there and check out her artwork. Well, that's awesome. Well, Abigail Morisi, we appreciate having you here on the Digital Desk. I hope to have you back on real soon. And you have a great rest of your morning, all right?
Thank you. You too.
Okay, in celebration of Memphis music, culture, and community, multi-platinum artist NLE Choppa hosted his inaugural DJ appreciation event. He threw this event in a well-disguised speakeasy. It's called The Pocket. The event was designed to spotlight Memphis DJs, but he was also previewing various albums there, but talking to youth about the issues of crime in their neighborhood. Okay, I want to talk about green juices. They really have taken the country by storm. They contain, though, you got to be careful which ones you drink. They contain, some of them contain thallium, goiatrin, and oxalate content, which can cause kidney stones and inflammation to the gut. So there's certainly stuff to be watching for when you have one of these. Ariana Poindexter has more.
Kermit the Frog said it best.
It's not that easy being green.
He may have a point. While many green juices are packed and marketed to look healthy, what's fashionable is not always scientific.
Fiber is the main component that helps our body's digestion. In juice, we're missing the fiber, but we're also concentrating the sugar and the sodium.
Experts say that consuming green juices can also contain high levels of thallium, a toxic heavy metal. Many leafy greens like kale, spinach, and collards also contain high oxalate levels, which can cause inflammation when consumed in large amounts. Another thing to watch out for when buying green juices is packaging.
When we are looking at store-bought or commercially made juices, we need to consider the labeling. Anything that's marketed to be a juice but isn't, so such as a sports drink.
Experts say to ignore the claims on the front of the bottle and study the ingredients list on the back. Look for 100% juice and whole foods.
The majority of our fruit and vegetable intake really should be coming from the whole fruits and vegetables.
Experts recommend that if you are going to drink juice, sticking to the recommended intake amount, which is no more than 8 ounces a day for adults and no more than 4 to 6 ounces for children. With ways to live your best life, I'm Ariana Poindexter, Action News 5.
This is what I've been trying to do since I was a kid. This is what I wanted to do for my career.
Lorraine says dance gave it an outlet and exposure around the world. He hopes he can provide that same outlet to kids here in the Mid-South. Open enrollment auditions for New Gen takes place March 26. For more information, you can look at our website, actionnews5.com. All right, Straight Jokes No Chaser Comedy Tour will be at FedEx Forum Friday, April 7th. The tour features some veteran comedians like a TV show for decades like Mike Epps, Cedric the Entertainer, Earthquake, D.L. Hughley, New Generation, DC Young Fly, who you may recognize from shows like Wild 'N Out. Tickets are on sale right now. Only a few dozen seats left. Prices range from $80 to $530. Yeah, $530 for a comedy show.
Did you know that 1 in 5 people worldwide have inherited high lipoprotein A, and many people don't even know it, which is pretty scary. And that's because it's not something that's screened for, and oftentimes people don't even realize they have it, or the first signs of that condition until they have a heart attack or a stroke. And that's why we're really wanting to talk about this morning and let you know all the information you need. And joining us now to share more about it is the Family Heart Foundation founder and CEO Catherine Wileman and Dr. Seth Baum, Chief Scientific Officer for Flourish Research. Good morning. How are y'all doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. You know, I'm glad to have you on here because, I mean, hearing these numbers, 1 in 5 people worldwide having this and not knowing it, it's pretty alarming. And Catherine, I understand that you had a heart attack, unbelievable, age 39. And, you know, just tell us more about your story and kind of what happened.
Absolutely. So I was out gardening and I developed crushing chest pain and pain radiating down my arm. When I called the paramedics, because I was younger and I also was a female, I really had to advocate for myself for them to take me seriously. But what we discovered was that I had in fact had a heart attack because I had 100% blockage of the main artery that feeds your heart blood. And it took a little while, but I also discovered that the reason I'd had an event so young in life was because I had inherited 2 genetic conditions that led me to be at high risk. One is called familial hypercholesterolemia, which leads to high LDL from birth, and the other is elevated lipoprotein(a), which we're here to talk about today. And as you said, the thing about elevated lipoprotein(a) is that it's incredibly common. We know that about 60 million Americans are living with elevated lipoprotein(a), but what we also know from the Family Heart Foundation research is that less than 1% of Americans have been screened in the last 10 years. And it really shouldn't be that way. With genetic risk for cardiovascular disease, there's so much we can do if we find out early. And so we're really pleased to have this opportunity to talk with you and your audience about it.
And I'm sure that had to have been scary, surprising for you, and just an unbelievable situation. Were you shocked when you realized what was going on?
You know, I have to say it was terrifying. We hear that people are not very afraid of cardiovascular disease, but it still is the #1 killer in the world. And it was a horrible feeling. I felt completely powerless, and you could really feel the pressure of time, that you needed the care immediately. So it was a shock.
So Dr. Baum, I want to bring you in, though, and just talk about what it means if you do have a elevated lipoprotein(a). What does that mean?
Yeah, so elevated LP(a) is a bad thing. First of all, it increases risk maybe 4 times what a normal person would experience. LP(a) is like a very small LDL particle. We know LDL is very bad, causes vascular disease. Well, LP(a) does it. And there are 3 elements to LP(a) that are particularly bad. The first is it causes plaque. That's blockage in the arteries that feed the heart, such as what Catherine had experienced, but it also causes an increase in inflammation and increases the risk of clotting. And all 3 things can conspire to cause stroke and heart attack. We know that it's inherited. So because it's inherited, what that means is if you have an elevated LP(a), you should have your whole family checked. And then finally, I would say that even though we don't have therapeutics to reduce the risk from LP(a), they're in development, they're in research right now. But what we do have are other approaches, such as reducing your LDL cholesterol, something that's not done nearly enough in the United States. We could do that more aggressively in patients with high LP(a).
So, doctor, who should get tested for LP(a), and then how is that done?
Yeah, so I'm a preventive cardiologist, and I believe everybody should be tested for LP(a). It's a simple blood test. You can find out the results very quickly. The Canadians and the Europeans have stipulated in their guidelines that everybody should be checked. We should be doing the same. You can ask your doctor for the test, or frankly, you can ask the Family Heart Foundation for some guidance, and they'll help direct you to how you can get a test.
So, Catherine, I want to talk with you again. You've dedicated your life to raising awareness about heart disease to the public. And let's talk a little bit about what the Family Heart Foundation is doing to create awareness about LP(a).
So all year long, we work with health systems and healthcare providers to put into effect more systematic screening for genetic causes of cardiovascular disease. And we really advocate with policymakers to make sure those who are born at risk have the care they need. But during the month of March, we had the opportunity to go to the public, and we really appreciate this opportunity to talk with your audience to let everybody know that this is something that exists. It's common, it's life-threatening, it's easy to screen for. And so March 24th is LP(a) Awareness Day, and we hope that people will take a minute and think about whether or not they can get screened and whether or not heart disease runs in their family.
This is really important to get out there. Like you said, this is so common, and people don't know about it until they have some kind of major medical issue. Can we talk about where people can go to get some more information and read about some of the things that we've talked about this morning?
Sure. People can go to familyheart.org. We have lots of information on our website. We also have a patient navigation center so people can call and talk to a real person who's trained, if that's their preference, and learn about what they might do to protect themselves and their family.
Well, Catherine, Dr. Baum, I appreciate both of y'all joining me here on the Digital Desk this morning and helping to get the word out about something. Like you said, it's so important that people have the information they need. Y'all have a good one, all right?
Thanks, you too.
Okay, March 30th marks World Bipolar Day. It's also the birthday of Vincent van Gogh, who was posthumously diagnosed as having bipolar disorder. And let's talk a little bit ahead of World Bipolar Day with someone who knows a lot about the disorder, Dr. Gustavo Alva, a psychiatrist board certified by the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology, joining us on the digital desk. Dr. Alva, good morning. Can you provide a little bit of background on bipolar disorder, what it is and what to look for, that sort of thing?
Relatively common. Nearly 6 million adult Americans are affected by bipolar disorder, which means that about 2.5 in their lifetime. Bipolar disorder is defined as the term states by manic episodes.
So this is lit up, the audio, and so Doctor, for some reason, we are having some audio issues with you. We cannot hear you. I tell you what, I'd like to take a brief break here and perhaps come back to you in just a moment because I believe that we're very close to hearing you. I just don't hear you right now, so we're working on it. I'm going to take a brief break here, play some weather, and come back to you, okay?
Good morning. A cold start to the day, and we keep it pretty chilly all day today. 47 degrees by lunchtime. We're at 53 degrees at 3. A ride home from work at 5:52, and then upper 40s at 7. Also, something to note about today, not only is it cooler than normal, but also clouds roll in here as we get a little later in the afternoon. So clouds will gradually increase. We'll still end up around 53 today. A low temperature of 38 in Memphis tonight. So there will still be potential for frost, especially for areas in West Tennessee and eastern Arkansas. As I mentioned, clouds build in. So by 3-4 o'clock, it's cloudy across the area. We keep the clouds in place tonight, tomorrow morning, though, still dry as you wake up. This is 9 a.m. on Tuesday, upper 30s and lower 40s across the area, but rain starts to move in through the afternoon and into the evening. So by 2-3 o'clock, you'll start to see a few showers, even through 7 o'clock at night Tuesday, West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, seeing some spotty rain, mostly light showers in Shelby County and into eastern Arkansas, but notice up towards Dyersburg, there could be some heavy rain. There's a low pressure system parked to our north, which is why we'll have that chance for rain on Tuesday. But rain chances still at only about 20 to 30% Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Look at Friday, 60% chance of rain. That will be as a cold front is moving through the mid-south. So some pockets of heavy rain where you see this yellow color here right around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Friday is when it'll be pouring. You'll also have some thunderstorms that could have some gusty winds with this system. That would be the main threat with any thunderstorms that develop. And then by 11 o'clock at night, most of that rain comes to an end, but at least early evening, 6-7 o'clock at night on Friday, you'll probably still have some lingering rain. So for tomorrow, maybe a 1/10 to a 1/4 inch, could be up to 1/2 inch tomorrow and Wednesday in Blytheville and Dyersburg. But then on Fridays when we'll get most of that rain. So it'll be over that 1 inch mark in Memphis, could get up to 2 inches through the end of the week in Wynne, 3 inches possibly in Dyersburg. Pretty good rainmaker for us here, especially on Friday. We increase temperatures over the next few days. 53 today, 57 tomorrow, 70 on Wednesday, 75 degrees on Thursday, and still hanging out near 70 on Friday.
All right, so let's try this again with Dr. Gustavo Alva. He's talking about World Bipolar Day, which is March 30th. Doctor, go ahead and speak with us and describe what Bipolar Day and what bipolar disorder is.
I'm happy to describe this for you. So bipolar disorder is a brain disorder that causes unusual changes with not just mood, but also behavior. Not an uncommon condition. 6 million adult Americans are affected by bipolar disorder, which means that about 2.1% of Americans will live with bipolar 1 disorder in their lifetime. And as the term implies, we see that there are episodes defined by manic episodes as well as depressive episodes when people experience bipolar 1 disorder.
So it sounds like it's much more prevalent these days in the U.S., Doctor. What are some signs and perhaps some symptoms of bipolar disorder?
Well, some of the symptomatology goes along these lines. When people with bipolar 1 disorder are experiencing a manic episode, they might experience a lot of energy. They might not need to sleep as much. They might have a ton of racing thoughts that are ripping through their head, and they might act out with reckless behaviors that don't necessarily take into consideration the consequences that will ensue from certain acts. That then gets followed by a depressive episode in which people experience the opposite: low energy, social withdrawal. Obviously, this might lead towards feelings of isolation and being misunderstood. And that's where clinicians like myself might be able to help patients with bipolar 1 disorder stabilize so that they can in turn pursue their goals, careers, and relationships.
How can patients be more empowered to manage this disorder? I mean, you know, initially when someone was diagnosed with bipolar disorder many years ago, it was a pretty brutal diagnosis. But now there's much more treatment available, and I know that people know more about the disorder today than ever before.
Which is critical, right? Obviously, for people to have a voice in their mental health management is probably going to land them the best outcome. So speaking with one's healthcare provider is always going to be the best option. As we speak openly about mental health, we not only educate others, but we also help fight off stigma. And this is a treatable medical condition, and it's something that can actually be dealt with quite effectively.
As a healthcare provider, doctor, how do you determine which treatment is best for those patients with bipolar disorder?
Well, everyone's a bit different, but clinicians like myself will typically approach a patient with bipolar 1 disorder and offer them an oral medication. Now, keep in mind that once somebody's been stabilized, the options then grow. So somebody that's been stabilized with bipolar 1 disorder might be offered a long-acting injectable. And the beauty with that is that now people don't necessarily have to worry about taking their medicine on a daily basis and can now focus on other areas of their life. So it's really important for people to be well in tune with the options that are there for them and, you know, how we might be able to manage this condition best. In lieu of World Bipolar Day, learnmorebp1.com is a great resource for individuals to seek out more information. So learnmorebp1.com is a site I would definitely recommend.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about where people can get more information. You said bp1.com. Anywhere else?
Yeah, so it's learnmorebp1.com. But certainly the National Institute of Mental Health offers a lot of different resources. But for this particular endeavor of World Bipolar Day, learnmorebp1.com, I think offers a phenomenal source for more information.
So with World Bipolar Day approaching, is there anything that people can do to maybe mark the significance of that day?
Absolutely. We talk about Vincent van Gogh. There's other people that are more contemporary, right? So when you take a look at people like Winston Churchill, other individuals that are highly notable, these are individuals that have garnered a fair amount of attention, but they experienced a brain disorder that was causing changes with mood and behavior. And the nice thing, as you stated earlier, is that we have a better approach in dealing with this. But the important thing is empowering individuals with appropriate education and helping fight stigma.
No question about it. All right, Dr. Gustavo Alva, we really appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us this insight when it comes to bipolar disorder ahead of Bipolar Disorder Day. Thanks very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk now about a vinyl record. When was the last time you bought a vinyl record? Chances are it really wasn't that long ago. For me, it was during fall break because there is a new report out there that shows vinyls outpaced CDs last year. Now, not many people are buying CDs these days. I can't remember the last time I even played a CD. It's just something you don't do. Noah Noble from our sister station in Biloxi, Mississippi, stopped by a local record shop to give us more insight on this.
Amanda Hansen back here. All right, well, the Memphis Office of Youth Service.
You know, I'm looking for that, and I don't see it. I'm going to get back, and I don't see the story with vinyl record sales right now. We'll get that story with you in just a minute here on the digital desk. But right now, I want to go to colon screening guidelines.
Amanda Hansen back here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. You know, we've been talking about March being Colon Cancer Awareness Month, and so we want to make sure that you are informed with all of the health information you need to make sure that you are doing what you can. And joining me now to talk more about this is Dr. Mariah Wright, colorectal surgeon with St. Francis Medical Partners. Dr. Wright, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. You know, I'm glad to have you here on the digital desk talking about this topic. I think it's so important to make sure that people have the information they need to make sure that they're making proper healthcare decisions. So I guess starting things off, I know screening is so important in ordering to catch things like this early. What are those screening guidelines and how have they kind of changed?
So currently the colorectal cancer screening guidelines have changed. They used to be starting at age 50 for folks who were considered normal risk. Now we've decreased that down to age 45, and that's because we were noticing that there were a lot of folks who were getting diagnosed with more advanced cancers at that initial screening. So we decided to bump that age down so that we could catch more people in time to potentially cure their disease. You know, we estimate that about 140,000 people will be diagnosed with colorectal cancer this year, and about 56,000 people will die from the disease. It's very preventable and treatable, and if caught early, we could save another 40,000 lives.
You know, I do have a question. I was curious. A lot of times, over the pandemic, a lot of people were avoiding some of these types of screenings, things like that. How important is it to catch this early? And when it comes to the symptoms, do you not really start seeing symptoms of this until it has progressed to a point, and that's why early detection is so important?
Absolutely. So there were tons of people who either weren't able to get the colonoscopies that were recommended by their primary care providers or decided to put it off because they didn't want to be in a healthcare situation, which was totally understandable at the time. The reason that ends up hurting all of us in the long run is that, you know, when we do a colonoscopy, we're able to catch polyps before they even turn into cancer and prevent you from getting cancer in the first place. By no means is colonoscopy our only screening option. We can check the stool for blood. We can check the stool for abnormal DNA that would be coming from one of those polyps. But if those blood or stool DNA tests are abnormal, the next thing that we're going to recommend is a colonoscopy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the various ways to get screened. You hear a lot now, too, about these test kits that people can order. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of another way that people are kind of keeping a check of their health when it comes to their colon health?
Absolutely. So the most common one that we will use for colon cancer screening is the Cologuard test. And with that one, they send you a kit and you have your bowel movement into a little hammock, and then you put it in a jar and you send it off in the mail. And then the lab is going to take a look at it and check for abnormal DNA and for blood. And if either of those things comes back, then they're going to tell you that your test was positive and that you need to be set up for a colonoscopy. The upside of that test is there's no bowel prep and essentially no downtime. But the downside is that you're going to have to do it probably every 1 to 3 years. With a regular colonoscopy, because we're able to get out any polyps before they turn into anything, if you don't have polyps or if you're a regular average risk person, then potentially you only have to get screened every 10 years.
But of course, those kits do not replace getting a colonoscopy, correct?
No. So all it does is tell us whether you're at increased risk for having a polyp, but it does not catch absolutely every little thing. There are certainly smaller polyps that would not be caught with those tests. So colon cancer screening, the gold standard is going to be a colonoscopy so that we can find polyps before they turn into cancer and remove them.
And, you mentioned risk. Are there people that are at higher risk than others? And then how much does family history play when it comes to something like this?
Sure. So folks who have a family history of colon cancer, either multiple family members or any family members diagnosed before the age of 50 are considered at an increased risk. And we're going to want to start screening them 10 years before their youngest family member diagnosis. So if you had a family member diagnosed with colon cancer at age 45, we're going to want to start screening you at age 35. Other things that contribute to a risk for colon cancer would be something like Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, where you've got chronic inflammation going on in your colon, and that's going to increase the risk for cancer as well.
And just a question, this might be beyond what you can tell me, but you were talking about people that maybe have a higher risk getting that 10 years earlier. Is that something that would be covered by insurance if you are at higher risk? That's just out of curiosity.
So for the most part, it will depend on where you are with your deductible and all that kind of stuff. But insurance should cover it as part of typical screening and a preventative measure. It would be considered preventative health care. But if you haven't met your deductible, then you're going to be responsible for a certain amount, and every health insurance plan is different.
Absolutely. I just figured I'd throw that out there just out of curiosity myself. So let's talk about the symptoms. What kind of symptoms do people need to be aware of? And if they have them, when do they need to go see a doctor?
So the most common symptom is blood in your stool or some rectal bleeding. And after that, probably a change in your bowel habits and some abdominal pain. Those do all tend to be sort of later signs unless we're looking at cancers that are very low in the rectum, right up against your sphincter where your bowel movement is coming out. So if you notice any of those things, then you should talk with your doctor to discuss your risk and determine whether you need to proceed immediately with screening or whether there's other tests that they want to do first. The take-home point really is that for the most part, colon cancer doesn't have symptoms until it's further progressed. So staying on top of your screening instead of waiting until you have a problem is the best way to stay healthy.
And that kind of leads me into my next question. How preventable is colon cancer? And are there certain lifestyle changes that you can make to lower your risk of ending up with colon cancer?
So the best way to prevent colon cancer is to get your colonoscopy, which I know I've said like 500 times now. But lifestyle changes, a high fiber diet, which means 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day, is going to help decrease your risk for colon cancer by making sure that all of your colon cells have all of the nutrition that they need. The high fiber diet is going to get all of those good carbohydrates to your colon cells so that they stay happy, and it's also going to keep the normal bacteria that lives in your colon happy. Typical American diet is like 3 to 5 grams of fiber a day. Folks who are doing a good job with fruits and vegetables are usually more in the 10 to 15 kind of ballpark. So it's a good idea to take a look at how much fiber you're eating and try and increase from there. There's plenty of ways to get food fiber into your diet, but if a supplement is what works best for you, that's totally good too. The main thing to remember if you are increasing your fiber is to drink plenty of water too, because fiber without water is concrete, and nobody wants that.
That is good advice. That's something that people probably don't think about. And I know that a way that I kind of try to track it, because like you said, a lot of people probably don't even know how much fiber they're getting in their diet. I actually use an app to help me with that. So I know that I'm hitting the amount of protein and carbs and everything to, keep myself healthy. Anything else you want to leave people with before we let you go? I mean, I know, like you were mentioning several times, make sure you're getting that colonoscopy and making those steps to make sure that you're preventing this from developing into something more. Is that kind of the big message you want to leave people with?
That's certainly the most important part of the message, but the other part of the message too is that colonoscopy is not as bad as you're thinking it is. The bowel prep is not fun. You're going to be hanging out with your toilet for the majority of the night before the colonoscopy, but the colonoscopy itself, you get medication to keep you comfortable. And it's just, it's one day out of your life to prevent a whole bunch of misery.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Wright, I appreciate you taking time today to share more about colon cancer, the symptoms, the importance of screening. We appreciate you having on, and hopefully we'll have you back on here again in the near future.
Absolutely. Have a good rest of the day.
All right, let's talk about what's coming up later here on the Action News 5 digital desk. Did you know one of the oldest independent bookstores in the country is located right in Memphis? In fact, it's in the heart of Cooper Young. So we are highlighting this on this morning's 5-star story. Also, with the cost of everything going up, you might think it's impossible to save. Well, we got you covered here on the digital desk. We're talking with a financial analyst with some realistic tips on how to build up those emergency saving accounts. And if spring cleaning includes some home improvement projects, we talked with Chip Wade from HDTV. He's going to share how to get started this spring. Really great ideas that you want to stay tuned for. But right now, I want to go back to that story I was telling you about with the vinyl record. In fact, a new report shows that vinyls outpaced CDs sales last year. Noah Noble from our sister station in Biloxi, Mississippi, has more on that. Take a look.
One of the cool things about the shop is I'm always listening to new things. There's not an end to the music you can discover, you know.
Marley Roberts owns Marley's Music in downtown Biloxi.
It's really astounding to me sometimes, you know, the rate of growth and just the expansion that we've had in a comparatively short amount of time.
But the idea that his vinyl record shop is growing isn't a surprise to the Recording Industry Association of America. In its latest report, the RIAA details how vinyl record sales outpaced CD sales.
It's something that's taken several years to get to this point.
The last time vinyls were this popular was 1987.
If you think back from the late 80s through the early 2000s, vinyl production was at an all-time low. One of the main reasons I think that things have really exploded in the past few years is that newer artists would have vinyl versions of their current releases. You know, people like Lady Gaga or Post Malone or Taylor Swift, all of these people that have very successful records actually released records. So the whole vinyl market just sort of was opened to all of these people that either weren't in on it in the first place or had maybe been turned off by like CDs or anything, you know.
This diagram details the revenue of physical media. According to the report, this marks the 16th consecutive year of growth for physical sales, and vinyls make up 71%.
There's decades of other music to go back to check out, as well as new current artists that put out albums.
Beyond the superior sound quality of physical records compared to CDs or digital, Robert says there's something magical about the record shop experience.
I have a lot of people that come in that, you know, say that this is a home away from home, that come in a couple times a week and just chill and listen to music. And I've made a lot of really cool friends that way as well, which I'm really appreciative of.
All right, well, the Memphis Office of Youth Services is putting on a Career and Technical Expo. It is coming up March 24th, and joining us now to talk more about it is Ike Griffith, Special Assistant to Mayor Jim Strickland and Director of the City Office of Youth Services and Community Affairs. Good morning. Glad to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's talk about it. So this Career and Technical Expo, it's coming up towards the end of the month. What can people expect?
Well, our young people can expect over hundreds of vendors that's going to be giving them an opportunity to be hired for a regular job. What we're trying to do is get in front of the classes of 2023 and have something in place for these young people to look forward to once they walk across the stage and get their high school diploma. Many of our young people are not going to college, and we want to make sure that we provide an opportunity for them to be productive individuals in our society. So I do want to give a shout out to Channel 5, Mr. Jonathan Mitchell, for helping me to get the word out about this great event.
Oh, good stuff. Love Jonathan. I'm glad that he's helping to get the word out with that with you, and I'm glad you're on the digital desk today. You know, you were talking about all the vendors that are going to be there helping to give these opportunities to these young people. How important is it to be able to have a place where they can come? Everything's kind of a one-stop shop, and it's giving them opportunities. How important is that?
It is very important. as I mentioned earlier, many of our young people are not going to college. And to have vendors like TVA, who's one of my sponsors, cosmetology schools, electricians, plumbers, NASA, Ford Oval, Blue Oval. Just I can go on and on and on, but it's so important to have a event of this caliber where people will be hiring on the spot. And we ask our young people to come looking the part along with your resume. That is so very important. That's the first step. Your first impression is a lasting one. So we really want to provide an opportunity for those youth so they can become productive individuals in our society. Not only high school students in Memphis, but we have invited high school students from Mississippi and Arkansas. Crime is just not around in our area. It's around us too. So we want to provide those same opportunities for those young people. So we are opening up our doors at 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock for our high school seniors. From 1 to 5, we will have our college students, opportunity youth, and adults. And our opportunity youth are those individuals that are school age, but not in school with no skills set. So we really want to make sure that we embrace all our young people in the city of Memphis and the surrounding area.
And those are some big name companies that you mentioned too. So these are good jobs, good opportunities, and they're out there for our young people. And so let's just talk about, I know you said there's going to be hundreds of vendors. What else can people expect, and what kind of other services are going to be out there for people?
Well, we have our Second Chance program that will be in effect. Also, we are providing opportunities for interviews for those companies that can embrace those children and the young adults and our college students. And we will have those vendors that will hire just with a high school education, and we will have vendors that will be hiring with college degrees. So it's so very important that we embrace all those vendors and thanking them, number one, for coming on board with us, like TVA and CTE program of Shelby County Schools, really just making this a big event. So we really are very excited about this event at the Renaissance Center, as I mentioned, just different careers that our young people can go into, or just have a major concern about looking into a particular career. We will have TCAT there will be giving away a scholarship to go to their facility. So it's just a variety of, opportunities for our young people. Training program, interviews, interactive career displays, Second Chance program, hiring on the spot. We're just really excited about this, and we really want our young people to take advantage of this. We're losing too many of our young people. And as you may know or may not know, the youth in this city is a top priority of Mayor Jim Strickland. So he has allowed me to just venture out to do whatever I possibly can to help our young people become successful individuals in our society.
And this definitely is a big step. This is big and helpful for our youth. And I'm curious, have y'all put an expo like this on in the past? Is this y'all's first time to do this? And if so, how many people are you expecting to be out here?
Well, hopefully thousands. This is our first time putting this on. Matter of fact, I was not budgeted in my budget to put this on, but I've been having great support of letting people know what we are trying to do to embrace our young people. Home structure is not like it used to be, and we need to be more aggressive in helping our young people become productive individuals in society. Each and every day, we constantly meet. We meet. As we are meeting, our youth are out here committing crime and other negatives in our society. So we need to meet in motion. We need to put in programs that's going to be beneficial, and also we need to have effective consequences for our young people. We are, as adults, to be quite honest, we are losing this battle with our children. So having a program of this caliber is so very important, and we ask parents to make our children do. Some things parents need to make their children do. They shouldn't have no choice. And this is one of the events that we hope parents will support us on, and so we can support their children.
Absolutely. And so I know you were saying that this is a big, investing in our youth and really focusing on our youth is a big thing for you, Mayor Strickland. Is that kind of how this expo kind of came about? Is this just kind of one of those things?
Well, I tell you, it came about just looking at data with the number of young people that may not be going to college, may not be attending college. So we got to find some positive things for our young people to do. And careers and technology is so valuable. It's so valuable because although we may have AI in our society now, but I've yet to see a machine fix hair. I've yet to see a machine come to your house and fix your plumbing. So there's a lot of careers that young people can go into and be successful in that process. And, you know, just making our children do and take it a part of something that's positive is very, very important. So we need to embrace our young people. We need to show them the right things to do, put them on the right track, number one, and hopefully they'll be successful. Hopefully it'll also deter crime because we have so many of our young people that we are losing each and every day. So we're all excited about putting on this Career Expo. We have invited, as I mentioned earlier, the school system in Memphis and the surrounding areas, college students, adults. So just take advantage of this opportunity and let's have a great summer.
Well, and I think this is awesome too because it helps these young people to even know what kind of opportunity, what they are capable of, what they could do, what is out there for them that they can, you know, grab and hold on to. So this is great. Real quick, can you kind of run over all those details again one last time and then where people can go to get some more information?
Okay. Well, first of all, you can call our office at 901-636-6264. And this is Mayor Jim Strickland, Memphis Office of Youth Services Career and Technical Expo that will be held March 24th at the Renaissance Convention Center. And we ask our young people to come looking the part, bring your resumes, because we will have hundreds of vendors, interviews, second chance opportunities, hiring on the spot. And we ask our young people that are in high school from 9 to 1 will be designated for you as high school seniors. From 1 to 5 will be our college students, opportunity youth, and adults. And opportunity youth are those individuals that are school age, but not in school. Business attire and bring your resume. So we're looking forward to seeing you, and I hope each and every one of you that come get hired on the spot.
All right. Well, Ike, I've enjoyed having you on. Thank you for taking some time to get out this information to our viewers, and good luck with the expo. I'm sure it's going to be great.
Thank you so very much.
Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Did you know each year approximately 35,000 people in the U.S. are diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and of that, more than 20% of all cases occur in Black people. And although patients within the Black communities are less likely to have a more aggressive form of the disease, they are twice as likely to die from multiple myeloma because it often goes undetected and it is spread and progressed. So joining me now to talk more about a new campaign out there raising awareness, we have Tiffany Williams and Teresa Elam Walker joining us. Ladies, thank you so much for your time. How are you doing?
Good morning. Doing well. Thank you.
I'm glad that we're talking about this topic because I believe it is so important for people here in the Memphis area to hear this and raise awareness. There's a new campaign we're going to talk more about. It's called That's My Word, driving some of that awareness. But I know both of you have been impacted by multiple myeloma different ways. But Tiffany, I'd like to start with you. I know that you were diagnosed with multiple myeloma at the age of 46. Can you talk to me about how you found out about that diagnosis and maybe some of the symptoms that you experienced that led you to your doctor?
Sure. It was a sudden and severe onset of back pain that led to my diagnosis. It was the first thing that clued me in that something wasn't right. I knew that it wasn't just, I hurt my back, I pulled something, and I listened to that intuition and that pain, and I made an appointment to be checked out. As you mentioned, Black people are disproportionately impacted by multiple myeloma, and I was 46 years old, much younger than the average non-Black person diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and I just knew something wasn't right. The more common symptoms for multiple myeloma are bone pain, fatigue, and frequent infections. And those are just a few of the common symptoms. And not everyone presents that way. So I say it's really important to listen to your body.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is just listening to your body and then you take action. Because I think a lot of times some people are like, oh, it's nothing, this is just going to go away. But you took action and you got that early detection. How was that so beneficial for you when it came to treatment and that sort of thing?
I think it was super beneficial. I think I'm here this morning able to share my story with you 9.5 years later, because I listened and I acted, and I was diagnosed early, and treatment was initiated early. Those are all things that lead to better outcomes. And as you mentioned, it's an incurable cancer, but treatable. And when we can treat early and diagnose early and treat early, I think that leads to really good outcomes. And I think it's critical.
And you're a support leader for a support group now. Can you talk to me about some of the things that maybe you have emphasized to people that are dealing with this and being a leader of a group like that?
Yeah, sure. I would say the most important message I have for my support group members, as well as anyone I meet with multiple myeloma, is to have a multiple myeloma specialist leading your care team. It is critical towards better outcomes and longer lifespan, potentially.
Well, Tiffany, I appreciate you sharing your story and just, where you are now, what you're doing, and how you're helping others that are dealing with this as well. Tricia, I know that your brother was diagnosed very young age, 48 years old. Some people might know him, Guru, famous American rapper, also record producer, and had multiple myeloma, and at 48, just a few months after he was diagnosed. Can you talk to me about your story and what you experienced with your brother, and just share a little background on that with our viewers this morning?
Sure. So my brother, as you mentioned, passed away at the age of 48 from multiple myeloma. I actually don't know when he was diagnosed because he chose not to share that information, and he also did not receive treatment. So one of the reasons I'm involved in this campaign, and it's so important to me, is to really urge folks, particularly members of the Black community, Black men, to take those steps, get the diagnosis, get the early treatment, because this didn't have to happen. So it's heartbreaking for our family, but it's definitely made us more aware and more proactive in terms of our own health. Tiffany was talked about the various symptoms. What happened with me is I had a regular blood test that indicated I had a low white blood cell count. And that's something that could potentially lead to multiple myeloma, particularly because there's also a genetic aspect to this disease. And so once they knew that my brother had passed away from that, I had to have more tests. And it's something that I have to constantly check every 3 months in terms of my blood cell count. So, this is really important information to get out to folks. To not be afraid to go to the doctor, to check everything out on a regular basis, and to take action.
And I think it's incredible to hear about just how you're taking action now to help get the word out about this campaign, and for people to make sure that they are taking those little things that they notice with their body seriously. And just, I'm so sorry about what happened with your brother and the way it's impacted you. I do want to talk about this campaign, though, because I know it's something that you're passionate about being involved in. It's called That's My Word. So can you share a little bit more about this campaign and what they're really doing to try to raise that awareness about this?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for your kind words. Yes, this campaign is so important because it is about educating, spreading the word about the illness, about the disease, and about the fact, as Tiffany talked about, that with early diagnosis and early treatment, one can go on and live a long golden life as she's doing. So it doesn't have to, people don't have to end up the way my brother did. And so it's really important. And that's what this campaign is doing. It's spreading the word. It's asking people to join with us, spreading the word, getting their own information, finding out about multiple myeloma. and taking action, visiting us at that'smywordmm.com, following on social media at that'smywordmm, and being a part of this and spreading it in their community and among their family members.
You know, I really appreciate both of y'all coming on here, sharing your story. I know it's not always easy to probably talk about these things, but it does have a major impact in getting the word out and helping others that are out there. Tiffany, if we have you there, any last thoughts you want to leave our viewers with today before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, thank you. I would, again, encourage people to go to those sites and make your own personal pledge. If you are impacted or living with multiple myeloma, or you love someone who's living with multiple myeloma, join the campaign and help us to increase awareness to improve outcomes in our community.
Well, Tiffany, Tricia, I appreciate both of y'all coming here on the Action News 5 digital desk and really spreading the message about something that's so important to so many people right here in the Memphis area and beyond. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hang on. This morning's 5-Star Story celebrates everything that we love about the Mid-South, and that includes Burke's Bookstore. It's in the heart of Cooper Young, one of the oldest independent bookstores in the country, approaching 150 years. Kim Clark has more.
Burke's Bookstore on Cooper Street has an inventory of books as eclectic as the Midtown neighborhood where it now sits.
What I like to call Burke's is a browser's paradise.
A paradise Corey and his wife Cheryl Messler have been in love with for dozens of years.
It's really important to me to have a store where people can come into, feel welcome, and be surprised by something that they didn't know they wanted.
On the shelves, you'll find about 14,000 new and used books, rare books, first editions, and signed copies. The best of the old, the latest of the new, and hard to find collectibles.
And since Burke's is part of the history, and it's important to us to keep a big Memphis history section. That's one of our draws.
Also, more typewriters than they can possibly display.
And people became fascinated with them. I didn't know there was that much interest in typewriters. Of course, it fits. This is how books are written. And the more people became fascinated with it, and they would bring us typewriters.
Messler, the author of several novels of his own, has also brought some of the world's most famous authors into the shop.
John Grisham's a dear friend, still a dear friend of the store. Literally over 100 authors, I'm sure, have been through here.
And it's not just famous authors who've made Burke's a destination. Take screenwriter Joel Cohen and his wife and actress Frances McDormand. Messler called the couple's visit one of the best days of his 40-year book-selling career.
They said they came to Memphis, this is what they told us, we came to Memphis for barbecue, antique stores, and Burke's. Now, they may have just been flattering us, but it sure felt good. They said they'd been in the store 20-some years ago, and we remembered it.
The story of Burke's Bookstore started more than a century ago.
Started 1865 on Main Street in the Burke's family, famous for selling textbooks to all the Catholic schools in town.
Eventually, the Burke family moved the business to the 600 block of Poplar Avenue.
In the 60s, urban renewal came through. They wanted to raise a lot of those buildings, so Burke's had to find a new home. Was still in the Burke's family at that point in the third generation. It went from father to son to son.
The bookstore was bought by Diana Crump in 1978, then Harriet Beeson, shown here in this picture, who moved the business to its third location in 1988 at 1719 Poplar Avenue. Corey began working for Beeson that year as well.
And of course, loved it. I've been in the book business since I was 18.
That's also when Burke's began selling used books.
In 2000, we were able to buy the store because Harriet was ready to retire.
In 2007, the Messlers moved the business to its fourth and hopefully final location in Cooper Young, becoming their own family business.
Cheryl and I are fixing to have our 31st wedding anniversary. We met in the store, got married at the playhouse next door, had the reception in the store. So we are wed to the store, literally. And then our daughter Chloe came on board 5 years ago.
When asked why Burke's has stayed in business so long, Messler's simple answer is civic pride.
Memphians love Memphis. I mean, true Memphians really love the city. So we're part of the history, and we honor the history. We're proud to be in Memphis. We're proud to be Memphians, and I guess people respond to that.
In Cooper Young,
thank you to Memphis for supporting us for almost 150 years. Thank you for thinking we're worth supporting and worth keeping around.
Kim Clark, Action News 5.
All right, it is the first day of spring here on a March 20th. We are excited to be talking about spring because that is the perfect time for so many homeowners out there to improve their house, renovations, do-it-yourself home improvement projects. We want to talk to an expert about DIY projects. So we have brought into the digital desk Chip Wade. He's a favorite TV home improvement expert. Perhaps you recognize him. He's the original Emmy Award-winning host of HGTV shows like Elbow Room, Curb Appeal, The Block, and several others. Chip, how are you? Good morning.
I'm great, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So why is spring one of those great times for all those do-it-yourself projects that people are just ready to get involved in?
You know, I think it's the opportunity for us to take advantage of that kind of natural energy-inducing life of all the trees coming out and that little sprig of warm weather. For me, it just boosts me full of energy, and it's like we need to harness that for productivity, doing the fun things, doing the necessary things, but doing it in a way that, you know, is not too cumbersome, that we can enjoy this process of all this new life.
I agree. So let's talk about where people should start with their spring projects, because they're like, okay, yes, I want to improve my house. Where to begin?
Well, one thing that I like to do to keep my motivation at this high level is to start with a project where I know I'm getting a great deal. Nothing kind of is a buzzkill, like feeling like you're paying too much for something. So I've actually found a site that's a little bit different than you might have experienced before. This is called Slick Deals. This is a community of millions of real people that work together to save. It's like shoppers helping other shoppers, and they do this by voting and vetting on these deals so that when you look at it, you can actually tell with confidence what deals are actually really great, which again, for me is awesome. It kind of takes that whole, you know, having to cross comparison shop off the table, saving you time. Again, these are hundreds of deals vetted every day, everything from power tools to, you know, bathroom vanities. They've got everything on there. So if you're in the market for something to buy, check out Slick Deals to give you that confidence that what you're buying is a great one.
What about suggestions for keeping our homes running smoothly? What about that?
Now, Andrew, one of the things, I can do so many things around the house, but one thing I despise is working on home systems like, you know, your HVAC system if it goes out, or, you know, your refrigerator and your other appliances. I recommend having a service in place where when the inevitable does happen, you know exactly where to go and you've got all of that already orchestrated. One great place to look is cinchhomeservices.com. What this is a home management system that's easy, that covers the repair and replacement of all of your home systems and appliances that you use every day. Basically, this is going to end up saving money, but ultimately what it's going to do is going to save you the hassle and the frustration of time of where am I looking, who can I trust to just come in and get the job done so that I can be focusing on the stuff that I actually enjoy doing, which is not working on any of these things. So again, it's a preventative measure to give you that peace of mind that ultimately we're all looking for. And again, we're talking about staying on this high of energy and motivation in the spring. Get this taken care of so it doesn't kind of undercut you. It's a great idea.
There's so many home improvement projects people are probably thinking about right now, but what about someone who wants a little something unique for the spring?
Well, I am one of those people. Every single year, I like to kind of reinvent the feel of some of the main areas in the house. But again, that can break the bank if you're not careful. So one of the most cost-effective big things you can do is refresh your space with new prints and frames and some wall decor that is cost-effective. Now, a place you can go is smallwoodhome.com. What they are, a family-owned business that they provide the quality, affordable, custom home solutions like your canvases and your framed prints. My kids, like everybody else's, grow so fast, and it seems like, oh my gosh, I just put that art up, but now I don't even recognize who that is in the picture. To keep things fresh and up to date, you can upload your personalized art, create a gallery wall. All of these things are very easy, and right now they're offering 20% off your first order. So again, keeping in that same theme of saving money keeps us motivated, and this is a quick and easy refresh to your house. I'm doing it. It's definitely something that I think you would benefit from as well.
What about the other items that are on your spring to-do list, Wade? What you got?
Well, one thing that I did this year that was brand new, I've designed and installed so many pools for other people over the years, but this is the first year I actually did it for myself and my family. I was a little hesitant because I was like, oh, the last thing I need is another thing to maintain. I'm not looking at the fun it could be. I'm saying, how can I make this easier? So I did all the research for you and found what I feel like is the best pool cleaning robot out there. This is from Aiper. This is called the Aiper Elite Pro. This is a very powerful, easy to use cordless pool cleaner that basically will suck up all that gross stuff on the walls and the bottom of your pool. Again, yeah, it actually climbs the walls, cleans those too. The whole idea is that it just does it for you so you can actually enjoy your pool and not having to be working on it all the time, which is great. And again, saving money is what I'm all about. They have a code right now on Aiper.com, $150 with the code AIPER150. Again, really great things. When this thing gets done, it even parks itself beside the edge of the pool, which makes it really easy to just grab, charge again for the next time. Really, really good stuff. Technology is our friend when it comes to that. And I've got all this up for us, Andrew, on tipsontv.com in case you missed anything or you're like, oh, I like that, but I forgot what it was called. Check out tipsontv.com. We've got all of it there. And for any other inspiration that you might be looking for, I'm always doing projects on my social media. At Chip Wade is my handle on everything. Check it out. Hopefully you'll be inspired to save money and pick the right stuff to make sure your attention is focused on the best productivity this spring to keep us all motivated and moving forward.
You've really motivated us on a Monday morning. Gosh, I mean, we're looking at all these things. We're taking notes here. We're like, hey, this looks really good. I love it. Chip Wade bringing it with the energy this Monday morning, first day of spring. Chip, thanks very much.
Andrew, thanks for having me.
Good morning. A cold start to the day, and we keep it pretty chilly all day today. 47 degrees by lunchtime. We're at 53 degrees at 3. Right home from work at 5:52, and then upper 40s at 7. Also, something to note about today, not only is it cooler than normal, but also clouds roll in here as we get a little later in the afternoon. So clouds will gradually increase. We'll still end up around 53 today, a low temperature of 38 in Memphis tonight. So there will still be potential for frost, especially for areas in West Tennessee and eastern Arkansas. As I mentioned, clouds build in. So by 3-4 o'clock, it's cloudy across the area. We keep the clouds in place tonight, tomorrow morning, though, still dry as you wake up. This is 9 a.m. on Tuesday, upper 30s and lower 40s across the area, but rain starts to move in through the afternoon and into the evening. So by 2-3 o'clock, you'll start to see a few showers, even through 7 o'clock at night Tuesday, West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, seeing some spotty rain, mostly light showers in Shelby County and into eastern Arkansas. But notice up towards Dyersburg, there could be some heavy rain. There's a low pressure system parked to our north, which is why we'll have that chance for rain on Tuesday. But rain chances still at only about 20 to 30% Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Look at Friday, 60% chance of rain. That will be as a cold front is moving through the Mid-South. So some pockets of heavy rain where you see this yellow color here right around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Friday is when it'll be pouring. You'll also have some thunderstorms that could have some gusty winds with this system. That would be the main threat with any thunderstorms that develop. And then by 11 o'clock at night, most of that rain comes to an end, but at least early evening, 6-7 o'clock at night on Friday, you'll probably still have some lingering rain. So for tomorrow, maybe a 1/10 to 1/4 inch, could be up to 1/2 inch tomorrow and Wednesday in Blytheville and Dyersburg. But then on Fridays when we'll get most of that rain. So it'll be over that 1 inch mark in Memphis, could get up to 2 inches through the end of the week in Wynne, 3 inches possibly in Dyersburg. Pretty good rainmaker for us here, especially on Friday. We increase temperatures over the next few days. 53 today, 57 tomorrow, 70 on Wednesday, 75 degrees on Thursday, and still hanging out near 70 on Friday.
So did you know that it is Brain Awareness Week? And since we live in the stroke belt, we felt like it was so important to make sure that you knew the signs, the symptoms, and what to do if you think someone you love is experiencing stroke symptoms and what you need to do. So joining us now to talk more about this is Phyllis Wright, stroke coordinator with Methodist of Bonner Healthcare. Phyllis, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to have you on here because I think this is good information to get out to people, especially since it's Brain Awareness Week. How fitting. So I guess let's start out by talking about what happens to the brain when you have a stroke.
Well, stroke is sometimes called a brain attack. This happens when something blocks the blood supply to that part of the brain. This can be a form of a clot or a blood vessel in the brain that has burst. Then that area that's become damaged from the lack of blood flow also controls some body functions, and those body functions that the brain controls in that area will be affected as well.
You know, as I was mentioning before I came to you, we are in the stroke belt. In Shelby County, it's one of the top causes of death. What is it about this area that puts us into that category?
Well, one of the things, we have a diet that's high in fats offered to us here in this county. We have high cholesterol levels, sedentary lifestyle, which influences the blood flow not to be as good as it should be. We have high blood pressures that aren't maintained in the normal ranges. Diabetes is a factor. All of these are factors that can be modified to reduce a person's risk for stroke. We also have some lack of education how to reduce those factors.
I think education is always a big thing when it comes to health, is people just having the information they need to make sure they're making the right decisions for themselves. And so let's just talk about some of the proactive things that people can do. Say maybe someone has high blood pressure, or some of the things that you mentioned. What are some proactive things that people can do to lower their risk of having a stroke?
Well, of course they can change their diet, but you know, if you don't want to eat healthy all the time, you can have special days that you can eat out and not eat as healthy as you do. Going to the gym, and if you can't go to the gym, you can do walks around the neighborhood, walking in your home, exercises from the sofa or your chair. They could do that. And then when you do have high blood pressure, be sure to take your medication as prescribed to keep your blood pressure within the normal limits. Also with diabetes, keeping your blood sugar within normal limits is a very important thing to do. That can be controlled by diet and medication from your physician.
And so let's get into the signs and symptoms, because, you know, time matters if someone is having a stroke. And I know that it's different with men and women. So kind of let's go through and talk about some of those.
Well, they're about the same for men and women, these signs and symptoms of your strokes. Balance is one of them. You're unsteady when walking, or dizziness that makes you feel unsteady. Blurred vision, it could be in one eye or both. A facial droop or numbness, or both at the same time. Weakness in one or your leg or your arm, or both. Speech, which is slurred, garbled, unable to speak. Words may be in the wrong context in the sentence. Those are all some of the signs that you need to get help immediately.
You know, and as we were talking about, time matters. So if someone thinks that they're having a stroke, what do? Do they need to call 911 right away? Because I think a lot of times people are like, well, maybe this will pass. What do people need to do?
They need to call 911, because the faster they get medical treatment, the better their chances are increased to have a better outcome, because there are treatments that can be given, but they're time-sensitive treatments. So yes, 911, do not drive yourself. You know, call them, get them to your home or wherever you are. If you're with a family member or friend and they're having these symptoms, definitely call 911 to get ambulance there to get them to the closest emergency room.
Don't waste any time, for sure. Let's talk about it, though. If someone has a stroke, what are the treatment options that are out there?
Well, one of the treatments available is a thrombolytic medication. We call it a clot buster. The sooner that medicine is given, the better your chances for lesser of the disabilities that could come along with the stroke. There's also a treatment where trained physicians can go in and remove a clot. Not everybody are candidates for either one of these. Sometimes they are, and sometimes there's factors that make them not be candidates. So if they're not a candidate for them, what we do then is provide them with medication and education to prevent another stroke from happening.
And you were talking about that medication. I just have a quick question for myself. Okay. Is that something, you know, you're saying call 911, get somebody out there, take you to the hospital. Is that something that can be administered on the way to the hospital, or is it something that typically is administered within the hospital?
It's administered in the hospital, but it's important that you get here as fast as possible to the hospital, because those minutes, like you said, time is of the essence, is very important. So getting there with the medical emergency, they can start an IV line and have everything going so that that medicine can be given to you quicker.
Absolutely. Well, Phyllis, anything else you want to make sure that we hit home about, takeaways that you want to make sure people remember before we let you go?
Okay. Yes, I would love to emphasize again, like you said, time is of the essence. It's very important. So if any of those symptoms, you don't have to be more than one, it could be one symptom. Please get the person to the emergency room right away. Timely treatment is very important for the best outcome.
Well, Phyllis Wright, stroke coordinator with Methodist Bonner Healthcare, I really appreciate your time and helping to get this information out to the public, because like you said, education, it's what it's all about.
Yes. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Amanda Hansen back here at the Action News 5 digital desk. And amid the uncertainty in the economy, inflation, the talk about a recession, it's no surprise that people are worried about their financial wellness and what they can do to make sure that they are prepared for whatever comes our way. And so joining us now to talk about some advice and to share how people can build emergency savings and improve financial wellness is Scott Thoma, financial expert with Edward Jones. Scott, good morning. How you doing? We're glad to have you on here. So I know that there was a recent survey that was put together that was talking about how Americans are really viewing their financial wellness. Can you talk about that survey and some of the things that came out of it?
Yeah, from a big picture perspective, we found that most individuals, in fact, over 90% view financial wellness as incredibly important. So I think that's a positive. But what we also saw is less than half individuals right now actually felt confident in their financial strategy. I'd say the good takeaway to that is that, especially given the environment that we're going through right now, they are looking for ways to prioritize things to get back on track.
You know, and with the cost of everything at the grocery store going up, I mean, you leave with a little bitty bag of groceries and it's $100. And I think so many people are wanting to try to improve their financial wellness. I know tax season's come up. A lot of people are going to get refunds. What kind of advice would you give people with these uncertain economic times, maybe ways that they can try to put themselves in a better position?
We're going to continue to hold on to the cloud cover throughout most of the day, maybe a couple peaks of sunshine, and there will be some drizzle that continues throughout this morning. But otherwise, it's going to be breezy. Temperatures will stay into the 40s throughout the afternoon. Tonight and the next several nights will be particularly cold. Freeze warnings will be in effect. But once we get the drizzle out of the area for today, we're actually looking at a dry stretch of weather. Spring will officially begin on Monday, mostly sunny and unseasonably cool. Highs that day near 50.
Prioritize those things and actually build a strategy to help not only get them started today, but also help keep them on track.
And you were talking about the importance of having that financial advisor and how they really can help them kind of have that knowledge, know which direction to go, what they need to do. You know, one thing I'm curious, I've heard people tell me in the past too, when it comes to having that emergency savings, that you really want to try to keep about $10,000 in, you know, aside to be able to have in case you lose your job. Is that what's a typical amount that you would say people need to be able to save in order to kind of have that cushion if they need it?
Well, I think it really depends on their own specific financial situation. We recommend individuals have between 3 to 6 months of their living expenses in an emergency fund. So it's really tailored based upon your own personal situation. That being said, how much you have within that range is going to depend on a lot of different things. How stable is your income? Do you have dependents that you're supporting? So it's those types of things that a financial advisor can help work with you to not only set this is the right amount for you to have, but then also then build that strategy to be able to build it over time.
You know, and a lot of people think to themselves, this is just overwhelming. Like, I don't know how, I'm going paycheck to paycheck. You know, I'm one paycheck away from really being in trouble. And they think to themselves, it's just not realistic for me to be able to build an emergency savings. Is there some tips and maybe some small things that they can be doing to try to start working towards that? What advice do you have?
Absolutely. And I think it's first important to validate that because, yes, the situations right now people may be going through may be a little bit difficult. So what are some ways that we can get started? First thing, make it automatic. Many individuals do retirement savings automatically from their paycheck every single month. Do the exact same things for your emergency savings fund, and that can be a way to start building your fund over time. Secondly, you mentioned tax season. You may be getting a tax refund right now. Use that tax refund to really fortify that emergency fund and build that foundation. And third, look at your spending. Take a step back and see where you're spending money. Maybe there's subscriptions that you have right now that you're not really using. All of those items can be ways to really start building progress and building that base for your emergency fund.
Some good advice there for sure, because I think a lot of times people just think, I can't do it. But like you said, even kind of combing through your bills and looking at maybe those subscriptions that you're not using every day, and just kind of really taking a hard look at where your money's going. Where could people go if they want to get some more information and learn more about some of the things that we talked about?
We recommend starting at our website. It's edwardjones.com/financial wellness. Not only can you find information about all the things that I discussed, but you can also find a financial advisor in your area that can help get you started.
All right. Well, Scott, thank you so much for your time and helping to get this information out to our viewers. You have a good rest of the morning, all right?
Absolutely. You do the same. Thank you.
All right. I want to tell you about a shocking new report from the CDC confirms what many parents already suspected. Teen girls are in crisis. In fact, a 2021 survey of more than 17,000 high school students found that 30% of the girls had considered suicide, a rate that's double than that of boys and almost 60% higher than 10 years ago. So parents, what do you do? What steps can you take now to help your child? Joining us now to talk more about this is National Recovery Advocate David McGee, joining us here on the digital desk. David, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
You know, I'm glad to have you on here because I think this is something that needs to be talked about. And, you know, of course, the contributing factors. But before we dive into some of that, can you talk a little bit about your background? Are you coming to us from Oxford?
Yes, I'm in Oxford, Mississippi, and I work at the University of Mississippi inside the William McGee Institute for Student Wellbeing, which we're creating and launching here. That's named after my late son, William. And I actually get to work and help create this institute. And it's really, its aim is helping students find and keep the joy they want and deserve, because we're at a moment in time where mental health and substance misuse is taking that from so many in this region and across the country.
You know, and I think the pandemic, for one, I know when it comes to substance abuse, a lot of people were drinking more and just dealing with a lot emotionally. I do like to see that we're starting to make a little progress in having that conversation about taking care of your mental health just as much as your physical health and getting rid of that stigma behind things. But I know we want to talk about this crisis, the teen girls in crisis. What do you think is really kind of fueling this? Is it social media? What do you think? I mean, I'm sure it's a number of factors, but can you kind of break that down for us?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it's all of the above. And I've actually got a book coming out in August called Things Have Changed, What Every Parent and Educator Should Know About the Student Mental Health and Substance Misuse Crisis, because everything is involved. It's social media, it's the pandemic, it's the high expectations of parents of young people today. It's marijuana is 400% stronger. It's, you know, not everybody is involved in all of those, but what we see is a changing cultural environment where young people are feeling pressures that they can't quite put their finger on and they don't know how to deal with. So they'll use techniques like eating disorder or habits they'll fall into, eating disorder or substance misuse, which change how you feel. Eating disorders are often about control, but they also change how you feel for many people. Substance misuse is the same thing. So what we've got to do in this country is begin to look at the whole pie of what is happening here and how do we reach in and be able to meet young people where they are.
For sure. And you know, this is a good conversation to be having. Are there certain signs that parents need to look out for when it comes to starting that conversation, asking questions? What should parents do?
Yeah, well, for starters, parents ask me all the time, like, are there any signs I should look out for? Number one, look, if your teen has a hard time looking you in the eye ever, I don't mean sometimes. Teens are teens, and it can be difficult to have them make eye-to-eye contact. But if you go through a long period and they just are not engaging with you eye-to-eye, you need to expect something's going on. And it might be mild. I'm not saying it's so severe, but you need to start digging in deeper. The other thing, if their mood has changed and they're edgy with you consistently and they've got emotional outbursts beyond just the normal teen thing, that's a sign. But then how you break through to teens is not to get frustrated and mad at them. They're human. They're going through something. The best tactic is to take a deep breath and begin to not tell them how they should feel, cheerlead them on, but ask them open-ended questions. Begin to converse with them in open-ended questions to be able to help them gauge how they feel. Sometimes it'll help them find answers that they don't even know.
I think that's good, the advice on asking those open-ended questions and then not telling them how to feel.
Right.
What is the best? It's not an easy conversation to have. Is there any advice you would give on how you ease into that?
Well, you just put your finger on it. Is frankly, parents and even educators, honestly, mean well. But parents, for example, that we parents cannot help but tell our children how they should feel. You should be so excited you've got that big cheerleading competition this weekend. You're going to be a great student in math. You should just go with your friends and have fun. You should make A's. You should start in soccer. You should. And it's a lot of pressure, to be honest. And they're feeling it, and many teens are caving under it. And so what we have to do as parents and realize, look, they're children, they're human, and they don't like the pressure. They don't like being told what to do. The studies are clear. We have to take a deep breath, see them, hear them, ask them how they feel, how they are, and try to begin the conversation that way.
I like that thought too, just saying don't tell them how to feel, because sometimes I think even just recognizing that you're doing it, I think a lot of parents sometimes don't even realize that they're doing that, and so just to even for you to say it kind of helps to let them notice that that's what they're doing. Are there certain, when you're having these conversations, are there certain things you want to be listening for?
Yeah, look, in today's buzzword among teens is anxiety. They don't feel comfortable saying, I'm struggling with substances, or I have an eating disorder, or what they'll often say, the safe word is to their parents or others, I'm battling anxiety. When you hear that, you need to not just take it at face value. Anxiety is very real. So it may be that, but most often we find that what they're battling is upstream and there's more things going on than that. That's their safe word. When they tell you that, you just need to understand they typically need counseling, and you want to get them into counseling and or substance treatment. But a lot of the students I find who battle eating disorder or substance misuse, they can't even tell you that they are. So parents will get frustrated that, look, I'm asking my child and I think they're honest with me, but they just say they're anxious. Well, yeah, because sometimes it's hard for us adults, much less young people, to fully face and recognize what we're facing when we're in the throes of it.
At what point does a parent say, maybe I need to seek some professional help to help my child?
Hey, I think the earlier the better at any warning signs. We know that counseling works. It does. I see incredible results from young people, particularly the earlier they get into counseling. Earlier, the better results. Doesn't mean always you get the perfect counselor the first try, but maybe it takes another move to another one. But then when you find that right fit, it starts to work. I think that parents need to understand, look, if a child shows warning signs and you begin to ask them open-ended questions and they begin to say, I'm struggling a little bit, I would err on the side of trying to help them think through those feelings to better understand them. And that reduces the odds that they will begin to use substances to change how they feel.
And I think sometimes it's good to be able to just talk to a neutral person. I think we all need therapy. I think it helps us to kind of talk through things. It helps us to understand why we respond certain ways, how to manage that. And so I think we all can use that. This has been a great conversation, David. Is there any other points or anything else you really want to leave our viewers with?
Well, I think you make a great point about everybody needing counseling and therapy, and it does work and it does change lives. And when people have a higher emotional intelligence, they have a lot, typically are happier, and it does work. One of our challenges is, I'll leave viewers with, we're really going to have to start thinking about how we get access to all students or, such mental health treatment, because the problem is we face in this country is that mental health issues, including substance issues, they don't know any boundaries. All races, all economic strata. But where we have an issue is that actually treatment is not equally accessible to all, and counseling is not equally accessible to all. That's some of the work we're trying to do at the University of Mississippi's William McGee Institute for Student Wellbeing, is help figure out how to break those boundaries through telehealth and other means.
And I'd love to talk to you more about that maybe another time here on the Digital Desk. If you want to connect back with me, I'd love to talk more about that. I think it's important. And like you said, accessibility is such a problem, people just being able to get access to those resources. So, David, I've enjoyed having you on today. Thank you for talking about this subject and bringing attention to it. And you have a good rest of the morning, all right?
Thank you, too. Thank you so much.
And I have another great story that I'm looking forward to talking to this pair. So two friends decided to go in and have bariatric surgery on the same day. And they are joining us here at the Digital Desk this morning to share more about their story. This is Randy, who you see on the screen now, Randy Lowe, and she's alongside Dusty Barrick. He is in the corner, you can see there in queue, ready to talk to us. Good morning, both of you. How you doing?
Good morning. Great. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Doing great here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have y'all with us, and I can't wait to hear more about your story. Y'all both look incredible, by the way. Let's begin just by talking about your journey. What led you to kind of decide you want to go in on this together, and what led you to decide that this was going to be what was going to work best for you? And Randy, since we have you here on the screen first, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit more.
I was really fortunate. I have been working with Dusty for a while, and he had actually gone in and spoken with the doctors first and said, why don't you consider this too? He knew how I had struggled off and on with my weight, and I had never really looked at bariatric surgery as an option. So I followed his lead, and I went in and spoke to my doctor, and then they sent us over to St. Francis to meet with the team there and find out more. And I'm so happy that he had just enough of a friendship with me to introduce me to it, and because it can be a very sensitive subject.
No, for sure. And it's such a difficult procedure to consider as well. And it was great to be able to have someone alongside you along the way. Dusty, let's kind of get you in here, because you kind of started this process and had got a lot of information to kind of start to share things with Randy. Tell me about where this all started with you.
Well, I mean, growing up, my family was all we've all battled weight loss. Like, one of my sisters has had the band, one had bypass, and then I had the sleeve. So it was just something that I knew that my family had to struggle with. So I got to a point in my life where I wanted to live a little bit healthier and be able to do the things I wasn't able to do as much anymore. So I did the research and then started talking to Randy about it. She was my work wife, so we did everything else together. Why not go in and get healthy together as well, too?
What kind of difference do you think it made for you to kind of have a sidekick to go in on this, and just even having that extra support along the way as you kind of navigated the next steps?
Well, just like with anything, especially like with weight loss or anything you're trying to commit to in your life, having an accountability partner is something that is really crucial to that. And also having a support system and being able to do it with somebody that's a best friend to make sure that, one, you keep each other honest, and two, when it's hard, you have somebody you can be honest and vulnerable with. And then, yeah, you just always have somebody call you out on your mess when you're not doing what you're supposed to as well, too.
Yeah, because they always say it helps to have that support system. So for y'all to be such good friends, your coworkers, you're spending a lot of your time together at work and all that. I know it went a long way. And Randy, I kind of want to bring you in here too, because a lot of people that maybe are considering this, they want to kind of know what the process is like. What was it like for you, kind of leading up to getting the procedure, and then just the next steps after that?
Sure. So, every insurance company is different. So the journey can look different for everybody. So I would definitely say reach out first and see what your insurance requires for the process. We had a 6-month wait where we had to see the doctor each month and show that we were taking the appropriate actions and lifestyle changes to make sure that the procedure was going to be successful afterwards, because it is a tool. It's not a magic cure-all. You are going to have to do some work, and you do sit down and meet with a psychologist to make sure that you're in the right headspace for that procedure as well, and that it's going to be successful. So Dusty started before me, but we were fortunate that after that 6-month waiting period and through scheduling, we were able to go through the diet pretty much together beforehand. And then we actually ended up having surgery on the same day. So it was great. We got to prepare together, go in together, and he was the first person that, saw me in the hospital room afterwards when I wasn't quite ready to walk around, but he said, we got to get moving. So he helped me, and we moved around that part of the hospital like we were supposed to, and left together the same day. And like I said, it was a great journey, and if anybody can do it with a friend, I recommend that you do.
And I know both of y'all have lost over 90 pounds, and I have some pictures. I might try to pull some of those up as well, just so people can kind of see here. I know, Randy, these were some of your before and after photos, and then we have Dusty. And, you were talking about a lot of this going into it. The diet going into it, you had to meet with a psychologist, and a lot of times people don't realize there's so much emotions connected with food and eating, and going into this had to have been this is a lifestyle change. Was it kind of enlightening for you going through this process too, and kind of going through the lead-in before the actual procedure?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it forces you to take a look at your life and how you eat and why you eat and how much time you devote to yourself and trying to live a healthy lifestyle, whether that's going to the gym or just prepping your meals to make sure that, you are going to set the day up for success. So it does change your mindset a little bit. And then you do have to be conscious of, am I eating enough? Am I eating the right things? Am I drinking enough water? And it forces you to take control.
So Dusty, I want to bring you back in here now, because the big thing after you have something like this, it's life-changing. And I want to hear about how life has changed for you and how things are for you right now.
Well, it's easier buying clothes, that's for sure, that look good. So that's always a good plus. But again, like I said earlier, like your energy's increased, your overall mobility increases a lot. It gives you the options to do a lot of things you may have felt restricted before. My energy level has come back to where it used to be whenever I was an athlete. So like it just gave me the tools, like Randy was saying. It's not like a fix-all. It just gives you those tools to get your life back in order, to be able to take control of your life and just be able to live healthy.
And y'all both look incredible now. Y'all put in the work, and you can see that. I guess let's talk about, for people that are watching today, where they maybe have been thinking a long time that maybe this is an option that they want to start considering, what would you tell someone?
I would tell somebody that, one, make sure it's something that you're ready to do, because it's a tool. It's not going to change your life without doing any of the work. But there's a lot of support groups for people going into bariatric surgery, and one of the biggest things in there is their biggest regret is not doing it earlier. I was like, when I was reading that, I was like, this is so corny. But then, truthfully, when you look back on it, your biggest regret is not doing it earlier and taking control of that life. So talk to your doctor, find out the right one that's going to be the best for you, because it's not a one size fits all, and go for it.
So Randy, what are some of the big advantages, to having this surgery? What would you say to people?
Well, I can tell you I sleep better than I have in a very long time. I think that also plays a large role into how much energy I have throughout the day. Like Dusty said, there's a lot of non-scale victories that we call them, like being able to walk into a regular department store and pick something up off the shelf and try it on. Flying and not worrying about needing a seatbelt extender, or just there's small things that maybe you don't think about on a daily basis, but as you start to change and be aware of your new body, those are things that get celebrated. It seems small, but it's really not. So don't be shy. If you are considering it all, I can't say it enough. Go talk to your doctor.
So how long ago was it that you did the surgery? And then I know that it's over 90 pounds. Tell us more about that.
So we had the surgery September 22nd of 2020, and I have officially lost 100 pounds. That just happened here last month. So it's been a gradual process and still maintained the weight loss, which is really great. I don't know about Dusty, but I can say, you start to lose the weight fairly soon after surgery, and then you hit plateaus, and it's going to take a moment. So, don't get discouraged. We all reach those plateaus. Keep going and work with your tools, and you'll get to where you want to be.
Dusty, how about you?
Yeah, so I've lost around like 90 pounds before. I had lost a little bit more, but just like with anything else, like I said, it's not a magic fix-all. Like, holidays happen and everything like that, so you gain a little bit of weight just like everybody else will. But again, it's a tool to help you keep your body in check and to keep on track. I'm back down again, but yeah, it's awesome.
Good morning. A cold start to the day, and we keep it pretty chilly all day today. 47 degrees by lunchtime. We're at 53 degrees at 3. Ride home from work at 5:52, and then upper 40s at 7. Also, something to note about today, not only is it cooler than normal, but also clouds roll in here as we get a little later in the afternoon. So clouds will gradually increase. We'll still end up around 53 today. A low temperature of 38 in Memphis tonight. So there will still be potential for frost, especially for areas in West Tennessee and eastern Arkansas. As I mentioned, clouds build in. So by 3-4 o'clock, it's cloudy across the area. We keep the clouds in place tonight, tomorrow morning, though, still dry as you wake up. This is 9 a.m. on Tuesday. Upper 30s and lower 40s across the area, but rain starts to move in through the afternoon and into the evening. So by 2-3 o'clock, you'll start to see a few showers, even through 7 o'clock at night Tuesday. West Tennessee, eastern Arkansas, seeing some spotty rain, mostly light showers in Shelby County and into eastern Arkansas. But notice up towards Dyersburg, there could be some heavy rain. There's a low pressure system parked to our north, which is why we'll have that chance for rain on Tuesday. But rain chances still at only about 20 to 30% Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Look at Friday, 60% chance of rain. That will be as a cold front is moving through the Mid-South. So some pockets of heavy rain where you see this yellow color here right around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Friday is when it'll be pouring. You'll also have some thunderstorms that could have some gusty winds with this system. That would be the main threat with any thunderstorms that develop. And then by 11 o'clock at night, most of that rain comes to an end, but at least early evening, 6-7 o'clock at night, overnight on Friday, you'll probably still have some lingering rain. So for tomorrow, maybe a 1/10 to a 1/4 inch, could be up to 1/2 inch tomorrow and Wednesday in Blytheville and Dyersburg. But then on Fridays when we'll get most of that rain. So it'll be over that 1 inch mark in Memphis, could get up to 2 inches through the end of the week in Wynne, 3 inches possibly in Dyersburg. Pretty good rainmaker for us here, especially on Friday. We increase temperatures over the next few days. 53 today, 57 tomorrow, 70 on Wednesday, 75 degrees on Thursday, and still hanging out near 70 on Friday.
It does it for us here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon. We have Action News 5's Ariana Poindexter anchoring the midday newscast coming up at the top of the hour. Then we'll be back here bright and early on a Tuesday morning for another edition of the digital desk. We'll see you then.